Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto has just awakened his devil powers which were sealed when Kyuubi was sealed into him. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Inside a dark room lit only by candles, a man sat in on a throne looking at a boy of about 15 with a small smirk on his face. The man on the throne looked to be about 20, with blood-red hair and blue-green eyes. He was Selzen Lucifer, the leader of the 4 great Satans that ruled over the underworld. The boy he was looking at had a nervous look face as he stared at the man. He had golden blonde hair and cauldron blue eyes, with 3 whisker marks on each cheek, and was wearing a kill me orange jumpsuit. The boy was Naruto Uzumaki, heir to the Uzumaki clan and nephew to Selzen, though he didn't know that yet. "Who are you, and where am I?" Naruto asked as he looked around nervously. And why shouldn't he be? He had gone to bed in his apartment and had woken up in front of this man. He could tell that this wasn't a dream, since he could feel heat from the candle near him, but knew he wasn't awake. "Calm down, Naruto." Naruto glanced at the man, curious as to how he knew his name. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Selzen Lucifer, the older twin brother of Kushina Uzumaki and your uncle." Naruto stiffened at that. Was this guy really his uncle? "Now I know you have a lot of questions, but they will have to wait. We don't have much time right now." Naruto slowly nodded his head, since his instincts were telling him not to argue with this guy. "Good, now the reason I have called you here is to tell you that my little sister, your aunt, will be coming to the elemental nations, along with her followers, in order to train you in the way to be what you were meant to be, a devil." Naruto blinked at that before digging his pinky in his ear. He must have misheard this guy. "I'm sorry, but did you just say I was a devil?" "Yes, Naruto, you are one of the last devils of the Uzumaki house, and the heir." Naruto stared at the man a second before laughing. "Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. But I think you got me confused with somebody else," Naruto said. He was an heir to anything. He was just a street brat that the 4th had sealed Kyuubi into. Yes, he knew about Kyuubi. How could he not when everyone called him Kyuubi brat? "I'm not mistaken. I have been watching you ever since the day you were born, and I do apologize that I couldn't do anything to help you, which is why I am doing something now." He had Naruto's full attention now. He couldn't do anything to help Naruto before because when Kyuubi was sealed into Naruto his devil powers were also sealed, which is why this was his first time interacting with him. The seal on Naruto's powers had broken. "Naruto, I have decided that you shall marry my younger sister Rias, which is one of the reasons she is headed to the elemental nations." Naruto blinked and dug his finger in his ear again. Sure, he had misheard him again. "I'm sorry, but it sounded like you just said I was going to be marrying my aunt." "Yes, but not for a while. Now we are almost out of time. But when you wake up there will be a bag and a book on your dresser. The bag will contain your evil pieces, and the book will explain about the evil pieces and the ratings game. I will explain things further after I speak with your Hokage, and you will meet Rias when you arrive at the academy." Before Naruto could say anything, Selzen raised his hand and Naruto found himself being pushed back. Naruto's eyes snapped open and he sat up in his bed, before squinting his eyes, trying to block out the rays of the early morning sunlight. "Man, that was one weird dream," Naruto said as he got out of bed and headed to the bathroom, completely missing the bag and book that were sitting on his dresser. After completing his morning routine, Naruto looked in the mirror before letting out a startled yell and falling on his butt. Shaking his head and standing up, Naruto's eyes widened as he looked into the mirror and found that his blonde hair had become blood red, the same color as the man in his dream, who had claimed to be his uncle. Remembering the man's words, Naruto ran to his dresser where he found a bag full of 15 chess pieces, the only piece missing being the king, and a book. Opening the book, Naruto learned that the chess pieces in the bag were called evil pieces, which he could use to revive someone as a devil, making them his servant and part of his family, though he could also use them on someone who wasn't dead and turn them into a devil. Before he could read any farther, his alarm clock went off, telling him he was going to be late. Quickly grabbing his things, Naruto hopped out of his window and flew through the air, seeing as 2 bat-like wings had appeared behind him, which freaked him out before he remembered the man telling him he was a devil. Shaking his head to clear his thoughts, he would think over everything later. Naruto flew to the academy and headed to his classroom, his wings disappearing once he had landed. "Man, this is so annoying," Naruto thought as he read through the book explaining about the evil pieces, their purpose, and how the ratting games worked. "According to this, I can use an evil piece to bring someone back from the dead, thus turning them into a devil and my servant, but I can also use it to turn someone who's still alive into a devil. It will stop their heart for about a minute before reviving them." "Yo Naruto, what cha reading?" Naruto glanced up from the book to see one of his only friends in the village, Shikamaru Nara, the heir to the Nara clan and the laziest boy in the academy. "It's a book on chess. I'm trying to study up so I can beat you more times than we draw." Naruto smirked. Even though he played the idiot, Naruto was actually one of the top students. He knew a lot of jutsu, which he had gotten from his fellow parish of the village, Anko, and was a master strategist. Thanks to all the games of chess he played against Shikamaru, either whining, stalemating, or losing, thought it was normally a stalemate. Like that will help you any, Shikamaru said with a chuckle. He knew the book wasn't about chess, but he knew Naruto would tell him when he was ready. He trusted the blonde-turned-redhead Jinchuriki with his life, even if no one else in the village did, though he did have to wonder about Naruto's hair. Before anything else could happen, the door to the room opened, and in walked Irika Yumino, their Chunin instructor. "All right everyone, quiet down," he said in the class. In one of their rare moments, fell quiet, since it was almost unheard of for Irika to be late to class. "Good, now before we begin Naruto, the Hokage wants to see you." Chuckles broke out around the classroom, as Naruto, ignoring everything, collected his things and headed for the Hokage's office. Weird, I wonder what the old man wants, Naruto wondered to himself as he walked past the secretary, who was trying to stop him, and entered the Hokage's office. "Yo old man, did you call me?" Naruto stopped speaking as he entered the room. The reason, sitting before the old man was Selzen, along with other people he didn't recognize. The first was a woman in her early 20s standing next to Selzen. She had silvery hair and matching eyes. She was wearing a maid outfit and had an air of power that was only surpassed by Selzen. Leaning against the wall, with a look in his eye that Naruto recognized as a pervert's gleam, was a boy with brown hair and brown eyes, wearing what appeared to be a school uniform, like the ones civilians' children wore. Next to him was another boy with blonde hair and gray eyes. He was also wearing a school uniform like the first boy. The third person at first glance looked like a girl with blonde hair and pinkish-violet eyes. Not upon closer inspection, Naruto realized he was a boy wearing what he assumed was a female version of the uniform the first two boys were wearing. Sitting on a couch against the wall was a girl with long blonde hair and green eyes wearing a long dark teal nun outfit, which made her look really cute. Next to her was a woman with long silvery hair and light blue eyes. She was wearing a blue business suit and skirt, which gave her an air of authority. The last person on the couch was a petite girl with white hair and hazel eyes. She was wearing a female school uniform and had a blank look on her face, though it made her look cute. On the other side of the office, leaning against the wall and looking out the window, was another girl with blue hair and brown eyes. Unlike the other girl, she was wearing a skin-tight black bodysuit under a white cloak. Standing next to the chair next to Selzen was a buxom young woman with violet eyes and very long black hair which was tied in a long ponytail, reaching all the way down to her legs with two antennae sticking out from the top and sloping backwards, with an orange ribbon which kept it in place. She was also wearing the school uniform along with a pair of black knee-high socks. The one that caught Naruto's attention, however, was the girl sitting in the chair next to Selzen. The person was a buxom girl with blue-green eyes, though her most distinctive feature was her long, crimson-red hair that reaches down to her thighs, with a single hair strand sticking out from the top and her loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. She was wearing the same uniform as the other girl and had a small kind, warm smile on her face which caused Naruto to freeze upon seeing it. "Ah Naruto, thank you for coming," Selzen said with a smirk at the sight of his nephew, whose face was trying to match his new hair color as he stared into Rias's eyes, Rias doing the same thing. "Ah right," Naruto said, shaking his head and snapping himself out of his daze. You called for me, old man?" Naruto turned to face the old Hokage, while keeping the girl he figured was his aunt, Rias Gremory, in his sights out of the corner of his eyes. "Ah yes, well you see Naruto, I called you here at the request of Lord Selzen here, who is claiming to be your uncle," the old man said nervously. Everyone in the room except for Selzen, the woman next to him, Rias and the girl next to her, gained wide eyes as they turned to face Naruto. "Yeah that's right," he turned to Selzen. "Thanks for the gifts by the way, they'll come in handy later," he grinned as he pulled out the book and bag of evil pieces. "You are quite welcome Naruto, they are rightfully yours as heir of the Uzumaki house," Selzen said with a smile. "However that is not why I called you here." A circle appeared on the floor before a chair appeared out of nowhere. "Please have a seat." Once Naruto was seated, Selzen nodded his head. "Good, now let me introduce you to everyone. The woman next to me is Graphia Lucifuge, my wife and queen." Graphia nodded her head to Naruto, who returned the gesture. "Next to me, as you may have guessed, is my youngest sister, Rias Gremory." Rias gave him a warm smile which caused his face to glow a little. "I will allow her to introduce her peerage." Rias nodded. "As my brother said, I am Rias Gremory, heir of the Gremory house." Naruto nodded his head, giving her one of his true smiles, which surprised the Hokage since he had only seen one of them himself. "Behind me is my queen, Akino Himejima." "It's nice to meet you," Akino said with a sultry smile, which reminded Naruto of his fellow parish. "Next we have my bishops. First is Asia Argento." The girl in the nun dress gave him a small nervous smile, then blushed a little when he looked at her. "As well as Gaspar Vladi, a damper." The damper nodded to Naruto, who nodded back. "After that, we have my knights, Yuuto Kiba." The blonde boy nodded with a smile. And Zenobia, the blue-haired girl, gave him a deep bow, trying to hide the blush on her face. "Then we have my rooks, Kaneko Tuju." The petite nodded with a blush, though still kept the blank look on her face. "And Ross Weiss." "You can just call me Ross," said the silver-haired woman, who was looking at him with a rather large grin and a small blush, which made Naruto wonder why all of the women in the room, except Grafia, were blushing when they looked at him. And last but not least my pawn, Issei Hayato, the boy with the perverted gleam in his eye grinned and gave Naruto a thumbs up, which he ignored, causing the boy to face fault. It's nice to meet you all. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, nephew of Selzen and Rias, and heir to the Uzumaki house. I hope we can all get along. Naruto gave them all one of his patented fox-like grins, which caused all of the girls to light up. Even Grafia had a little pink in her cheeks. Good, now that introductions are over, allow me to explain why I have called you here. Everyone turned their attention to Selzen. As I told you last night, Naruto, you are a devil and heir to the Uzumaki Devil House, as well as Rias's fiancé. Rias's eyes, along with that of everyone except for Naruto and Grafia, widened. Yeah, you told me this last night, though I have to decline, Naruto said, getting a raised eyebrow from his uncle and a slightly hurt look from Rias. It's not that she's not beautiful or that I don't want to marry her, it's just that I don't know her, and wouldn't feel right about forcing her into a marriage like that. A proud smirk crossed Selzen's face at these words. Which is exactly why you are going to marry her, just not now. Now it was Naruto's turn to be confused. Naruto, you truly are the heir to the Uzumaki house, and are exactly like your mother. You don't want to force something onto someone, which is exactly why I have chosen you to be her groom, as well as my future successor. Naruto stared at Selzen for what seemed like an eternity, as his words were repeated in Naruto's mind. His future successor, this was a little strange. Not to be rude, but do you think you could explain that a little more? Naruto asked, trying to wrap his head around his uncle's words. By the look of it, so was everyone else. Very well, as you know, I am Selzen Lucifer. I am the leader of the 4 great Satans and the ruler of the underworld, and I believe that you, Naruto, have the potential to surpass me in power one day, he said with a smirk on his face. Yeah, that's the part I'm having a little trouble with. How exactly am I supposed to surpass you? I just learned that I'm a devil? Naruto asked, really confused. He figured the Kyuubi would give him a little boost in power, but that was it. I guess in order to fully understand why I believe you will surpass me, I should give you a little history lesson on your world, Selzen said, getting a nod from Naruto. Very well, but do not interrupt. I don't want to have to repeat myself. Everyone nodded. Good, now as you all know, devils, angels, and fallen angels have been at war with each other for countless centuries. During that time, members of all 3 races had children with humans, creating half-breeds, most of whom were pulled into the war and fought for the side none human parent fought for. Over time, however, the half-breeds had more children, who, while not gaining the magical power of their parents or ancestors, were physically stronger and faster, but they refused to fight in the war. Now at the same time, there were 3 families, one of devils, one of angels and one of fallen. These 3 families refused to fight in the war, so using their combined powers they created this dimension, where the descendants of the 3 races who did not have magic could live in peace. This worked for a few hundred years before war broke out here in this dimension. In order to stop the war, a queen ate the fruit of a tree known as the Shinju, which gave her the power to stop the war. The powers were then passed down to her son, who you all know as the Sage of the 6 Paths. The rest has been told throughout your history, or most of it anyways. The Shinju, angry that its power was taken, became what you all know as the 10-tailed beast, which the sage sealed into himself, before teaching the world how to use the powers he gained from his mother, what you all know as chakra, before he created the 9-tailed beast. After that came the clan wars, as people who developed special abilities thanks to the chakra began fighting amongst themselves for land and power. Then came the creation of the shinobi villages, as well as the creation of the 5 great nations which make up the elemental nations. During this time, the 3 families that made up the devil, angel, and fallen houses intermingled and mixed with the others, over time creating their own clans. 3 very famous clans that you all know. The angels created the Senju clan, the fallen created the Uchiha clan, and the devils created the Uzumaki clan. Over time things were, as I said, war among the clans, before 6 half-breeds emerged out of the 3 clans. From the Senju was Hashirama, and his younger brothers Tobirama and Itama. From the Uchiha were Madara and Izuna, and from the Uzumaki was Mito. Itama and Izuna both died during the clan wars, and Madara and Hashirama both created the Hidden Leaf, with Hashirama marrying Mito, thus bringing the strongest members of each of the 3 races together, and the rest I trust you know from there. Naruto and the third nodded their heads. Well, my mother was a member of the Uzumaki clan before they created the elemental nations. Then me and my sister Kushina were born. I remained as part of the Gremory house like our father, and Kushina came here as a pure-blood devil to represent the Uzumaki house like our mother. When she arrived, she had Kyuubi seal into her by our distant cousin Mito, and over time she fell in love with you father Minato Namikaze, who was surprisingly a half-breed between an angel and a fallen, though either were part of the Senju or Uchiha clans. Naruto's eyes widened at this. His dad was Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, and he was part angel and fallen. During the 3rd Shinobi War, before your parents were married, Minato died from blood loss. The reason no one knows this is because only Kushina was around at the time, and she used one of her evil pieces on him. He became her queen, and was her first and only evil piece. Naruto's eye began to widen in understanding. The reason I believe you are the person to succeed is because while your dad was reborn as a devil, he was an angel and fallen. And even though you are a pure-blood devil, you still have his powers as both an angel and fallen. Selzen smiled as realization dawned on Naruto, as well as everyone else in the room. Wow, that's a lot to take, and I need some time to think. Without waiting for a reply, Naruto ran and jumped out the window, spreading his wings and flying away, missing a concerned look he got from Rias and Akino. A few hours later, Naruto was sitting on top of the tower in the middle of Training Ground 44, watching as the sun set. It had been a few hours since he left the old man's office, and he had come to the only place in Konoha where he could get any peace, since only 2 people willingly entered the forest, him and his fellow pariah, Anko Mitarashi. So this is where you've been. Naruto glanced over his shoulder at the voice to see Anko walking up to him. So what's on your mind? Anything I can help you with? She asked, sitting next to him, causing him to glance at her. Anko was a rather tall woman with purple hair and light brown eyes. She was wearing a long tan trench coat, an orange skirt, and a fishnet shirt. I doubt it, Naruto said, turning his attention back towards the setting sun. Don't be so sure. She wrapped her arm around Naruto's shoulder and pulled him close to her. When you didn't return to the old man's office after about an hour, they called me. He explained the entire situation to me and asked me to come find you. So what's on your mind? It's really nothing. It was just a lot to take in, he said, giving her a true smile. I mean, wouldn't you want a few hours to mull thing over if you were give a history lesson that ended with you learning your dad was the 4th Hokage, or that your uncle, who's king of the underworld, wants you to succeed him someday? You're right, I would want to clear my head. But remember, you got people who are worried about you. A light behind them caused them to turn as Rias and Akino appeared out of a magic circle, worried looks on their faces. Are you alright, Naruto? Rias asked, worried. She may not know Naruto, but her brother made the arrangement between them for a reason, and she wanted to give it a chance. Besides, she was his aunt after all. When you didn't come back, we got worried for you, Akino said with a small smile, which appeared to be contagious since Naruto gained a small smile at the sight of them. See, you have people who are worried about you, and you always have me, Gaki. She pulled him closer with a wide grin, before Naruto's eyes widened. That's right, Anko, there was something I was going to ask you. He pulled out one of his evil pieces, a rook. I was wondering if you wanted to join my peerage? The 3 women blinked at him in surprise. You sure, Gaki? They told me about those evil pieces, and while they sound interesting, it also bounds me to you forever. You sure you want me around that long? She asked, a little unsure. It wasn't that she disliked Naruto. Hell, if she was honest with herself, she had a slight crush on the boy for who knows how long, but she didn't want him to offer this out of pity. Hell yeah, Anko, this isn't out of pity or anything. I want you in my peerage because if it weren't for you, I'd probably be an orange jumpsuit wearing idiot running around screaming about becoming Hokage, he said, grinning. And it was true. Anko had picked out the cloths he was currently wearing, a pair of black shinobi pants, and red muscle shirt under a black short-sleeved jacket. She had also taught him everything he knew about being a shinobi, though not everything she knew, which irked him, since he could never win in one of their spars. Besides, the pariah of the village have to stick together, right? She grinned at that, while Rias and Akino smiled at the sweet moment between the two. Alright, Gaki, you got yourself a member of your peerage, just don't make me a queen. Never really pictured myself as a queen, she said, getting a wide smile out of Naruto. Alright, so let's see how I work these things, he said, pulling out his book, causing the 3 women to face fault. You mean you don't know how to use them yet? Rias asked, giving Naruto a deadpan look. I was actually just getting to that part when Selzen called me to the old man's office, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Well, at least he's honest, Akino said with a smile, getting the other 2 to nod in agreement. And cute, again the other 2 nodded, slower this time and with small blushes covering their cheeks, which Naruto noticed but decided not to comment on. Ah, here it is, he said excitedly when he found the page he was looking for. Apparently, since this is my first time using the evil pieces, I need to let my instincts take over and the words to bind someone to me will just come on their own. Sounds easy enough. With a small smile, Naruto stood up, handed Anko the rook, and closed his eyes. Naruto stood there for about a minute before slowly opening his eyes, getting a gasp from the 3 women since his eyes were now blood red, began to speak. In the name of Naruto Uzumaki, a magic circle appeared underneath Anko. I call out to Anko Mitarashi, hear my voice and follow its command. The rook floated over and melted into Anko, causing her eyes to grow dull. From this day forward you shall follow me as my rook. The circle glowed with a reddish light before fading away, with the light returning to Anko's eyes as it did. Man, that was weird, Anko said, clutching her head and stumbling slightly. Though I do feel stronger, she smiled before clutching her neck in pain and falling to her knees. Anko, Naruto yelled and rushed over to her, kneeling next to her as she held the spot her curse mark was. Anko, are you okay? What happened? Naruto asked as Rias and Akino rushed over to them. It's gone, she said quietly, before raising her head to look at Naruto, a wide smile on her face and tears in her eyes. It's gone, the curse mark is gone. She moved her hand and Naruto's eyes widened upon seeing skin where the cures make used to be. Before he could say anything, Naruto found himself on his back, with Anko's lip pressing into his in a deep kiss, before she released him and began thanking him profusely. After about 10 minutes of Anko thanking Naruto, the four headed back to the Hokage's office, where they found Selzen sitting waiting for them along with the old man, who had 3 headbands sitting on his desk. "Ah, good, you found him. I trust you had time to mull things over, Naruto?" Selzen asked, glancing at Naruto, who nodded. "I have, and while I know I'm not ready to marry Rias yet, or take over from you, I'm going to strive so that I can be worthy of both Rias and your position." He smiled over his shoulder at Anko, Rias and Akino, who all nodded to him. "I know I can do it because I've got people who believe in me to do it, so until I am ready I'll make sure Rias is happy here and I'll work my ass off to become the strongest devil in history." "Good, that's exactly what I wanted to hear." He gave them all a smile. "Hiruzen, if you would please." "Yes, Lord Selzen." The Hokage turned to face Naruto and the 3 behind him. "Naruto, Rias, Akino, as the Hokage of Konoha I would like to present you 3 with these headbands, if you'll accept them." He held out 3 Leaf Village headbands on black cloth. "By taking these headbands, you 3 will become the first ever devil squad of Konoha, only answering to me or you Jonin-sensei, Anko Mitarashi." Anko looked stunned at this. She had been trying to get a team for the last 3 years but was denied every time because of her affiliation with Orochimaru. Glancing over his shoulder to look at Rias and Akino, both of whom nodded their heads, the 3 took the headbands and put them on, Naruto tying his around his forehead, Rias tying hers around her neck, and Akino tying hers around her waist. "We accept, old man," Naruto said with a wide smile on his face. "Thank you, and while I can't make up for not telling you about your parents I can give you their home." He removed a pair of keys from his desk drawer, stood up and led them all out the door. After about 10 minutes of walking, which led them to the outskirts of the village, they all arrived at a rather large old manor, surrounded by trees which hid it from view until you were standing in front of it. "Naruto, I would like to welcome you to the old Uzumaki clan compound," Hiruzen said with a smile as he looked at the old home of the Uzumaki clan. "It wasn't very often, but this is the home the members of the Uzumaki clan stayed in when they came to the village, before Uzumaki was destroyed. It's yours now." With a smile on his face he handed the key to Naruto. "Now I leave you so you can get settled in and explore. You 3 will start missions in 2 weeks, along with the other teams that graduate. So until then train hard and enjoy your new home." With that the 3rd Hokage left in a swirl of leaves. "Well then, shall we explore?" With a smile on his face, Naruto unlocked the door, and he entered his new home with his new family. "This place is huge," Naruto said in awe as the group entered the Uzumaki house. On the outside it looked like an old 2-story mansion, while the inside was much bigger. "Man, this place is a freaking castle," Issei said, and it was true, the inside of the mansion was covered in seals which expanded the size of the room. While he wasn't a seals master, he did know the basics and could tell that the whole house was covered in seals. "It is rather impressive," Rias smiled as she looked around. "Shall we go explore?" Nodding, everyone set off in small groups. Rias, Akino and Naruto were one group, Anko paired up Zenobia and Raswise, leaving Yuuto to pair up with Kaneko. Issei and Asia, Selzen and Grafia had already returned to the underworld. "Wow, this place is incredible. It'll sure be nice when we have a few little devils running around here," Akino said as Team Devil explored the 2nd level of the house, which included a number of bedrooms, a library and a study, both of which were full of books on everything from magic and jutsu to sealing and taijutsu. That reminds me, can I ask you both something?" The 2 girls turned to look at him. "You just did," Akino teased before Rias slapped her lightly on the arm. "Go ahead, Naruto, you can ask us anything," Rias said with a kind smile. "Why me?" he asked, getting a confused look from the 2. "I mean, why do you 2 care about me? You don't even know me." Again the 2 looked at him in confusion. "Sai, look, all my life I've had people lie and hate me for something I had no control over. Because of this, I've learned to read people's by their eyes and body language, and I can tell when you both found me on the tower with Anko, you were both genuinely worried for me, yet neither of you know me. Why?" "Sai, you're right, we don't know you, but we want to." Naruto looked at Rias in confusion. "After you left we asked more about you, we were curious, so the Hokage told us about your life, he told us about all the pain and loneliness, he told yous all about how you suffered because of the QB," Rias said with a kind smile as she stroked his left cheek. "But he also told us about how strong you were," Akino smiled as she stroked his other cheek. "He told us about how you pushed past the pain and tried your best to prove you weren't the QB. He told us about how you pushed yourself into the ground training to be as strong as you are now." He smiled at their words. "We were inspired by your courage and drive to prove yourself, no matter the cost. That's why we were worried about you. We feared that what my brother told you may have pushed you over the edge, which is why we followed Anko." Rias smiled at him, causing his face to heat up a little. "That's also why we want to get to know you. He told us that you wear an emotional mask around everyone, including him. We want to get to know you, not a mask, but you understand." Naruto nodded while giving them one of his true smiles, which were showing up more often around these 2 than they ever have before. "Right, I understand, and I won't wear my mask anymore. From this moment forward I'll show everyone the true Naruto Uzumaki." They both smiled as Naruto began to open up to them, even if it was only a little bit. Good, now let's finish exploring, then head back and see what the others have found. Naruto and Akino nodded before the three headed off again. Yeah, and once we find the master bedroom, we can put it to some good use, Akino said with a seductive smile, causing Naruto to light up, which caused both of them to giggle at him. An hour later, all three groups were sitting in the living room waiting to hear what the others had found. So what did you guys find? Naruto asked as he sat in an armchair, which looked more like a throne than anything, with Rias and Akino sitting on either arm. That depends on what you found, Gaki. Or should I say what you lost, Anko said with a gleam in her eye at the sight of Naruto with his arms around the waists of the two girls sitting next to him. Looks like you finally decided to get rid of that damn mask. She was glad. She'd been trying to get him to take it off for years. Well, I guess I just needed some talking to. He grinned cheekily at the twitch in her eye. He knew she had been trying to get his mask off, and now that it was off, he was going to annoy the hell out of Anko. Anyways, what did you guys find? Well, the first floor has a few empty rooms, a rather large kitchen, a weapons room full of everything from kunai to katanas, and a dojo for spares along with wooden swords and training gear, Yuuto said with a small smile. The basement has a few levels to it. The first is a storage level, which creates full empty storage scrolls, food, pills, and other things. The second level is a dungeon, which has a lot of rooms, and one of them is a sealed room, holding the person inside in a suspended animation until the room's opened, and it has an occupant in it. This got Naruto's attention. Whoever it was must be really important as they were in a room that was designed to hold them forever should need be. The final floor is a seal preparation room. For the really big seals, my guess is that's where Lady Mito transferred Kyuubi to your mom. Naruto nodded at that. She was probably right. Well, that's good to know, but can you tell me a little about the prisoner that's in the suspension room? Anko took on a thinking pose. Well, she had long curly blonde hair and was really hot, though there was this really strange feeling that I got when I saw her. I don't know how to describe it. Naruto nodded. He would have to check this out later, preferably after he was a little stronger. Hell, if the Uzumaki had locked someone up like that, there must be a reason for it, and he wanted to be prepared. Alright, I'll look into it at a later time, but for now we should all just put her out of our minds. That means you Issei. Naruto glanced at the boy, who had a perverted look on his face. What I wasn't. He stopped talking as Kaneko punched him, sending him into a wall. Pervert. Everyone chuckled at that. Thank you, Kaneko, she nodded her head. Anyways, the second floor is mainly bedrooms and bathrooms. There are over 100 bedrooms up there thanks to the seal's place on the second floor. There's also a library and a private office. The attic is actually the master bedroom, which I have already claimed, but you are all allowed to claim any other room you want. There are enough for everyone to have their own, and they're all fully furnished with beds and clean sheets thanks to the seals on the beds. Alright, so now that we've explored the house a little, what do we do next? Ross asked with a smile as she glanced at Naruto, since he was the head of the house after all. Honestly, I have no idea. I've never actually pictured myself living in a place like this, or living surrounded by so many people, he chuckled. Well, I think we should all head to bed for the night, then we begin your training in the morning. We can work out a training schedule and everything during breakfast, Rias suggested, getting a nod from everyone. So after a little more small talk about what life in the elemental nations would be like, they all headed for bed. Rias and Akino joining Naruto in the master bedroom, much to his surprise and embarrassment when they both crawled into the bed naked. Inside the seal, Naruto's eyes snapped open suddenly, and he found himself standing inside a large sewer, with water flooding the floor. Alright, this is weird. Either I'm having a crazy dream or I've been pulled inside the seal on my stomach, and if it's the second choice then I'm really depressed since that would mean the inside of my head's a sewer, Naruto thought to himself, before a giggling sound reached his ears. Well, you're not dreaming. The sewer around him flashed by until he was standing in front of a large cage, which held the Kyuubi no Kitsune, who was currently looking at him with a look that reminded him of Akino. Thank you for coming, Naruto. Allow me to introduce myself. I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune, though my actual name is Kurama, the Kyuubi said in a surprisingly feminine tone. So you're the Kyuubi. Is there any special reason why you called me here? Naruto asked, getting a giggle from the chakra being. Actually there is. I was hoping to make a deal with you. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this, and motioned for her to continue. I was hoping that you would make me your queen and release me, and in return you would gain all but one tael's worth of my power. Naruto blinked. He never expected the great and powerful Kyuubi to try and make a deal like this. What's the catch? He asked after thinking about it for a few minutes. He thought about it and figured that she did kind of deserve her freedom, besides the face that he would gain all of her power, and he'd gain a very powerful queen. I mean, there must be some type of catch for you to offer me this deal. A row of large white teeth appeared in a giant grin, before a blinding flash of light caused Naruto to shield his eyes. When he lowered his arms, Naruto's mouth fell open. Standing in front of him was an almost perfect replica of his mother Kushina Uzumaki. He had seen numerous pictures of her around the house and had memorized her face. The only difference was that the woman in front of him had russet red hair instead of blood red, and it was shorter, only reaching to mid-back. though it was currently tied in a ponytail. The catch is very simple. She opened her eyes to reveal that they were blood red with slits for pupils. I liked Kushina, she was always kind to me, and would talk to me when she was free. What I want you to do is track down the man that pulled me out of her and forced me to attack you village, and kill him. Naruto nodded to that. It sounded simple enough. I also want you to track down the other Jinchuriki, bring them here, then release my siblings from them. Alright, I agree, he said, thinking over her terms, which were very simple, especially since he was going to try and track down the other Jinchuriki anyways. Pulling out his queen piece, he held it up and allowed it to float over to Kurama, where it stopped in front of her. In the name of Naruto Uzumaki, a magic circle appeared underneath her, just like with Anko. I call out to Kurama, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, hear my voice and follow its command. The queen entered Kyuubi similar to Anko. From this day forward, you shall follow me as my right hand, as my advisor, as my queen. The magic circle glowed before vanishing, along with Kurama, leaving behind a red sphere, which floated over and entered into him, before everything became black. Outside the seal. The next day Naruto awoke grumpily as the sun from the sunrise poured in through the window, hitting him right in the eyes. Squinting, he tried to move his arm to block out the sun but found it pinned to his side. Curious, Naruto glanced down and his eyes widened. Lying on top of his chest were the heads of Rias and Akino, as well as Anko, Kurama, Zenovia, Kaneko, Ross, and surprisingly Asia. Silently, Naruto created a sealless shadow clone. He was really glad Anko had taught him that jutsu, before he substituted with it, and headed downstairs where he began to make breakfast for his new family. Good morning. Naruto nearly jumped out of his skin when he heard the voice. Turning, he saw Yuuto sitting at the table drinking a cup of coffee. Oh hell, you scared the shit out of me. Yuuto gave him a small smile. What are you doing up this early? I figured you'd be sleeping in like everybody else. Well, I was planning to, but unfortunately, Issei got the room next to mine and woke me up a few times with his dream about the having a harem, which he would yell about in his sleep. I'm kind of surprised none of you woke up from it. Oh well, I activated the silencing seal in my room before I went to bed. It prevents sound from entering or exiting the room, Naruto said, as if it were obvious since all of the rooms had the same seals in them, though he only got a disbelieving look from Rias's male knight. I guess this is your first time around seals. He simply nodded at that. Great, well at least we now have something to train you all in, how to use seals. That would be helpful, especially since Issei keeping me up messed with my morning training routine. Naruto blinked and upon closer inspection noticed that he was wearing a green jogging uniform and did look a little winded. Right, well what do you want for breakfast? Naruto opened the pantry door and found a large room full of food with preservation seals covering it in order to keep the food fresh. Man, he loved seals. An hour later Naruto was smiling as he sat around the table eating with everyone else, except Issei, who was still asleep. After making breakfast with Yuuto's help, Naruto had gone and woken the others up and introduced them all to Kurama, quickly explaining the deal he made with her, before they all headed to the kitchen. A blush on the faces of Anko, Zenovia, Ross, Kaneko and Asia, since Naruto had asked them about being in his bed. Alright, now that breakfast is over, let's get down to business, Naruto said, gaining everyone's attention as his clones took away the dirty dishes. We need to make a training schedule that we can all work with, so where do we begin? Well, first we should figure out what area everyone needs to work on, and go from there, Anko said, getting a nod from the table. Well, Rias and her peerage all need to learn how to use chakra, since I already know it thanks to the hell you call training. Anko chuckled at that. She had literally turned a simple exercise, such as tree climbing and water walking, into him running from her snakes while dodging kunai with paper bombs on them. Well, you still need to find out and work on your nature affinity, though that can wait until everyone else knows how to use chakra. Naruto nodded in agreement. Well, you two need to learn how to use magic, as well as Asia and Issei, since everyone else already know how, Rias said. Since Asia and Issei were still new to her peerage, she hadn't had the chance to teach them how to use magic before coming here. That's true, and I was hoping to learn to use a sword, Naruto said, getting an approving nod from Anko. A sword would be good. Uzumaki, while known for their sealing, were also known for their skills with the sword, she said, repressing a shudder at the memory of the things she'd seen Kushina do with the sword. I can help you with that, Zenovia offered, getting a nod from Naruto. Though we'll have to find the right sword for you, maybe have one custom made. That would work. I also need to teach you guys how to create and use seals, though that can wait until after you learn how to use chakra. They all nodded at that, especially Anko, since she sucked at seals unless they were exploding seals. We also need to see if we can find taijutsu styles that would fit all of you. I don't think you do real well with Anko's striking snake style. I can talk to Guy and have him come by later to check them out and see what type of style would fit them all. Naruto nodded at that. He was on good terms with a few of the jonin and chunin in the village, which included Might Guy. Let's just hope that Tenten comes with them. We don't need Guy and Lee using that, and she's the only one who's able to stop them before they do that. Both Anko and Naruto shuddered at the thought, confusing the others. Alright then, what else? Well, I can help you with your angelic powers since I used to be a Valkyrie, Ross said, getting a nod from Naruto. Before he had gone to bed, Naruto had created a few clones and had them learn everything about his new family by talking and learning about their pasts and their dreams for the future. And I can help you with your fallen powers, Akino smiled, getting another nod from him. Alright, now that we have the areas we need to work on laid out on the table, we need to work out a schedule for them. Before he could say anything else, the doorbell rang. I wonder who that could be. Curious, Naruto headed to the front door and opened it to find an angry Irika standing there ready to drag him off to the academy. It appeared that the old man had forgotten to tell Irika of his early graduation. Naruto was angry. The reason: he was currently tied up in a chair inside his academy classroom with Irika lecturing him about breaking into buildings and lying about being a genin. Will you please shut up and listen to me for a second? Naruto said, getting an annoyed look from Irika. You remember yesterday when I went to the old man's office? Well, the reason was because a few surviving members of the Uzumaki clan arrived yesterday, and the old man decided to create a 3-man team of Uzumaki. Stop lying, loser. Everyone knows there's no such thing as an Uzumaki clan, one of the students, Kiba Inuzuka, yelled, causing everyone else to laugh. Before Naruto could retort, a magic circle appeared behind him and descended to reveal Kaneko standing there wearing her blank face. There you are, Naruto. Rias and Akino were worried. We're all ready to begin training, she said blankly as she snapped the ropes that bound him. Sorry, but it appears that the old man forgot to tell Irika about me becoming a genin, Naruto said, making a mental note to prank the old man, which caused a shiver to run down the spines of the Hokage and every umbu inside the village. Well, you did forget this. She handed him his headband, causing him to facepalm. How could he forget that? Thanks, Kaneko. I can't believe that I forgot about this, he said, tying the headband onto his forehead, getting a stunned look from Irika. That's an actual headband, Irika said, getting a stunned look from the class and a blank look from Naruto. Well, duh, I told you I'm a genin now, Naruto said with a smirk, before turning to Kaneko. Alright, Kaneko, let's head home so we can start training. Kaneko nodded her head and called up another magic circle before the two left the classroom. Thanks again, Kaneko, you're the best, Naruto said once they appeared in the living room of his new home, getting a small blush from the former Nikomata. You're late, Gaki, Anko said, getting their attention. Alright, now that you're back we can get to training, and we've all agreed on a schedule. First we'll start of the week with chakra control, since we all need to work on that, myself included. Naruto nodded at that. With Anko losing her cure's seal and him gaining Kyuubi's chakra, they were both going to need to work on their control. Once everyone has at least genin level control, we'll start learning magic from Rias and Akino. Alright, but what about taijutsu and kenjutsu? Naruto asked, getting a twitch from Anko. I was getting there, Gaki. Anyways, as I was saying, that will take up the first week. The second week I'll have Guy stop by and help us decide on taijutsu styles for everyone. Once that's done, I'll talk to Yugao and see if she can help us find sword styles for those of us who want to learn kenjutsu. Everyone nodded at this. It seemed rather straightforward. Alright, then let's get to training. Oh, and one more thing. Naruto paled at the look in Anko's eye. He knew that look all too well. Welcome to hell. I hate you, you know that, right? Naruto said as he stood in front of the old Hokage with Rias, Akino, and Anko as they waited for the 3 teams that passed their genin exams to arrive. I know, but you'll get over it, Anko said with a smile at the twitch in Naruto's eye. The past 2 weeks of training were, as Anko put it, hell. The first 3 days were spent practicing chakra control, which only ended once everyone was able to do the tree climbing exercise, which meant that while everyone moved from tree walking to water walking, then kunai balancing while waiting for Issei to learn tree climbing. The rest of the week was spent learning magic from Rias and Akino, which was relatively easy for everyone, except for Issei. After the magic and chakra, they started the second week by having another Jonin, Might Guy, and his genin team come and help pick out taijutsu styles that fight everyone, though Rias and her Peerage were scared for life when they saw guys in these unbreakable genjutsu. Once everyone had a taijutsu style, Anko had Yugao Yuzuki, an umbu member and the best sword user in the village, come and help Naruto find a sword and kenjutsu style to fit him. Can you explain to me why we're here again? Rias asked, looking over at the Hokage, who simply smiled at her. Well, I thought this would be a good chance for you to see who this year's genin are and who you may be working with in the future, he said, getting a deadpan look from the 4 devils. So you called us here to meet the other genin when we could be doing something more important? Rias asked, getting a raised eyebrow. And pray tell, what could be more important than meeting people who you could be save your life one day? He asked curiously. Getting Naruto, Anko, Asia, and Issei a familiar, the old man blinked at that and gestured for her to explain. Familiars are creatures that devils bind to themselves with magic. The familiar can be either a pet or servant, some can help in battle or during a request. A magic circle appeared next to Rias before a bat appeared. This is my familiar. And these are mine. Akino summoned 6 tiny demons with horns on their heads. So they're like summons? The Hokage asked, getting a nod from Rias, as she dismissed her familiar along with Akino. Before anything else could be said, the door to the office opened and in walked the 3 teams that passed the genin exams. You called for us, Lord Hokage? Asked one of the 3 Jonin, Kakashi Hatake. Ah yes, thank you for coming. The reason I called you all here is for the 4 genin teams of this year to get to know the members of the other teams. Everyone nodded at this. It sounded like a good idea. Good, we will have the jonin introduce themselves and their teams, so let's start off with Team 7. Alright, my name is Kakashi Hatake. I am the jonin sensei of Team 7, which includes Sasuke Uchiha, a boy whose hair looked like a duck's as grunted with a scowl on his face. Sakura Harino, a girl with bubblegum pink hair, was staring at the brooding boy with hearts in her eyes. And finally Sai, a pale boy, gave them a fake creepy smile. Good. Next, Team 8, the Hokage nodded at Kakashi, who had silver hair and his headband covering his left eye, before turning to a female jonin who had black hair and red eyes. My name is Kurina Yuhi. I am the jonin for Team 8, which consists of Shino Abirame, a boy with brown hair and sunglasses, gave a small silent nod. Kiba Inuzuka and his dog Akamaru, a feral-looking boy with a small dog on his head, gave a fanged grin. And finally Hinata Hyuga, a girl with short blue hair and white eyes, kept glancing at Naruto and blushing. Good. Next is Team 10. The old Hokage turned to a jonin with black hair and a beard smoking a cigarette. I'm Asuma Sarutobi, and I'm the jonin in charge of Team 10, which consists of Ino Yamanaka, a girl with platinum blonde hair, was staring at Sasuke with hearts in her eyes as well. Choji Akimichi, a rather large boy, was eating a bag of chips with a smile on his face. And Shikamaru Nara, Shikamaru nodded in Naruto's direction. Good. And finally, Team Devil. The old man and everyone else looked over at the 4 devils before face-faulting at the sight of them playing Go Fish. Sorry, did you say something, old man? Naruto asked, looking up from his hand. Sai, it's Anko's turn to introduce your team, he said, getting a chuckle out of Anko. Right, sorry, my name is Anko Midarashi, the jonin instructor for Team Devil, she said, proudly puffing out her chest to show off her new cloths. Over the 2 weeks, every member of Team Devil had gotten a new set of cloths. Anko was now wearing a black skirt with a pair of biker shorts under it, a red muscle shirt which hugged her chest, and a black trench coat with the Uzumaki clan crest on the back. My team consists of Akino Himejima. Akino gave a small smile, which caused hearts to appear in the eyes of all of the boys minus Sasuke and Sai. Akino was wearing a black and red battle kimono similar to the Kiri hunter Nin with the Uzumaki clan crest on her back. Rias Gremory. Rias got the same reaction as Akino. She was wearing a pair of black shinobi pants that hugged her ass, a red muscle shirt which hugged her chest and stopped above her belly button, and a black jacket with the Uzumaki crest. And finally Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto smirked as he wrapped his arms around Rias and Akino's waist, pulling them towards him, getting jealous looks from all of the boys while the 2 girls were getting a jealous look from Hinata. Naruto was wearing a pair of black umbu-style pants with a red muscle shirt under a black trench coat with the Uzumaki crest. Hold on, why is Naruto on a team with 3 hot girls? He's just the dead last of the year. He couldn't even do a simple clone jutsu, Kiba said, angry and jealous at the sight of Naruto with his arms around 2 of the hottest girls he had ever seen. Because dog breath, I'm awesome like that, he smirked at Kiba's angry look. Now, since we all know the other members of the other teams will be leaving now, before the Hokage could say anything, the 4 devils left in a magic circle, reappearing inside of the living room of the Uzumaki home, with everyone surrounding them. So what did the old man want? Zenobia asked curiously. Nothing important, just wanted us to meet the other teams, Akino said with a smile that told everyone not to ask. Alright then, now that we're all here, and since tonight's the night of a full moon, we can go and get a familiar for Naruto, Anko, Asia, and Issei. Everyone nodded and gathered around Rias before she created a magic circle which deposited them in forest lit by a red moon. So this is where we get our familiars. I like it, Anko said with a large grin on her face. That's really kind of you, this place is always cool. They all looked up to see a devil who looked like a middle-aged man in a muscle shirt and shorts. Who's the old guy? Naruto asked Rias, causing her to giggle while the old man fell out of the tree he was standing in. That's Satuji. He's the familiar master. He helps devils who don't have familiars find a familiar that will suit them the best, she said with a small smile. That's really kind of you to say, Lady Gremory, Satuji said, standing behind Naruto, causing him to jump backwards in surprise. So this old guy's going to help us find our familiar? Naruto scanned the man over. Yeah, thanks but no thanks, no offense, but I think I'd rather search on my own, if that's alright. While not real common, it's not unheard of for young devils to head out on their own to find their own familiar. Just be careful. There are things in this forest that could kill even some devil's fear. Naruto nodded his head in appreciation of the warning before spreading his wings and flying off. Can you please explain what happened? Rias asked Naruto, looking at him with a twitch in her eyes. It had been an hour since they had arrived in the familiar world, and during that time both Anko and Asia had found familiars. Asia had found a blue dragon that shot lightning which she affectionately named Rase, while Anko found a black kitten that could change into a giant fire-breathing panther the size of a horse, which she named Soot. After a while, Rias began to get worried about Naruto, so everyone decided to go find him, only for him to enter the clearing they were in, followed by a giant blue western dragon which nearly gave the familiar master a heart attack. Well, you see, it was like this. Naruto chuckled and sheepishly scratched the back of his head. As I was flying around, I saw this beauty lying in the sun, and a pack of wolves trying to sneak up on her. Since I didn't want the wolves to disturb her, so I took care of them, though I also woke her up when I summoned these. Naruto concentrated for a second before a pair of clawed gauntlets appeared on his hands. A sacred gear, Rias gasped in amazement as looked them over. That is correct, young devil. Everyone turned to the dragon, who spoke in a feminine tone. The sacred gear that Naruto possesses is 19 that are the polar opposite of the Longinus, as they are parts of the Jubi. What do you mean? Naruto asked curiously. She means that when the old sage split the 9 of us, he also turned it into 9 sacred gears. Everyone turned to Kurama or Kara as she preferred to be called. When you released me and took my powers, you gained the sacred gear I possessed, Kitsune's fortune. So you are the Kyuubi no Kitsune. I've heard a lot about you, the dragon said, gaining the attention of everyone. Before she was enveloped in a white light. When the light cleared, a woman with light blue hair wearing a blue dress stood smiling at them. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Tiamat, the Chaos Karma Dragon, and Naruto's familiar. It's nice to meet you all. She gave a small bow, which caused her rather large to bounce, knocking Issei out. It's nice to meet you as well, O Dragon King. Kara smirked at the twitch that appeared in Tiamat's eye. I am Kara, the Kyuubi no Kitsune and Naruto's queen. She puffed out her chest, making her own bounce. I see. I had no idea that you were the submissive type, Tiamat said as she had a small friendly stare down with Kara, which caused them to push against each other. I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that the reason they're acting like this is some kind of animal instinct, Naruto said, getting a nod from the girls, as sparks flew between Kara and Tiamat. Well, whatever, let's just get home so we can rest up. We do start missions tomorrow. With a snap of his fingers, the group of devils and the 3 new familiars vanished in a blinding light. It was a bright day in the village of Konoha. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and all through the village explosions could be heard as 3 genin chased after the bane of all new genin, Tora, the daimyo's wife's cat. Get back here, you damned cat, yelled one of the pursuing genin, Naruto Uzumaki, as he conjured up a magic circle and fired lightning at the demon cat, missing it by inches and blowing up a fruit cart. I hate that damned cat. Oh, come on, Naruto, Tora's not that bad, said a smiling Akino as she held the cat in her arms as it purred, glaring at Naruto. So you say, but I swear that cat is more of a devil than any of us, he growled, getting a smirk from the cat, which caused his eyes to twitch in annoyance. Calm down, Naruto, you're overreacting, Rias said, giving him a small kiss which helped him cool down a little. Now let's get back to the old man and see if we can get a real mission, alright? Naruto nodded his head and the 3 of them spread their wings before taking off. It had been a month since the trip to the familiar forest, and things had been rather interesting in that time. Once Naruto had a familiar, him and Anko, along with Rias and her Peerage, had begun handing out flyers for making contracts, and not only in the Leaf but all over the elemental nations, which tuned up a lot of different results, though it was mainly fat civilians who wanted money and or power. When they weren't granting contracts with people, they were stuck in the village doing D-ranked missions, much to Naruto and Anko's annoyance since most of the village hate them anyways. Welcome back, Team Devil, the old Hokage said with a small smirk as the team of devils entered the mission hall with Akino holding a purring Tora and Naruto twitching in annoyance. Capture Tora complete, old man, Naruto said with a twitch at the smirk on the old man's face. He knew that these damn D-rank missions were revenge for all of the paperwork that Naruto had given the old man in the past thanks to his pranks. Well, two could play that game. As the old man reached for another D-ranked mission for the 3 young devils, he saw an evil glint in Naruto's eye and a shiver ran down his spine, causing him to pause. He knew that glint anywhere, and with Naruto being a shinobi who knew the shadow clone jutsu, the number of pranks he could pull throughout the village simultaneously had increased to catastrophic proportions. Good work, Team Devil. Now that Tora's captured, again, that brings the number of D-ranks you've completed over the last month to 80, which means you have more than enough to qualify for a C-ranked or higher mission, the old man said, sweating a bit at the evil grin that appeared on Naruto's face. That's nice, old man, but I'm still going to cause you hell for making us do D-ranks for the past month. The Hokage began to sweat a little before he realized something. Anko wasn't with them. If I may ask, where's Anko? The 3 devils blinked at him. He was just now noticing that she wasn't with them. Oh, she got a summons somewhere in Kiri, I think. Ever since we started handing out summon flyers, they've traveled all over the elemental nations. Hell, I even got one from the Raikage a few days ago. And now we're working out a treaty between the Uzumaki clan and Kumo, Naruto said, proudly, getting a wide-eyed look from the Hokage. Before anything else could be said, a magic circle appeared under Naruto before he vanished, reappearing in a forest clearing where Naruto saw a bleeding Anko and a woman with red hair that he recognized from the bingo books as Amuri Ringo. Anko, what the hell happened? Naruto asked as he rushed over and began trying to heal them both. Damn, how he wished he was as good at healing magic as Asia or Rias. Some bastard calling himself Freed Selzen attacked us. Amuri here got a hold of one of the flyers and summoned me. She was hoping that we could help end the blood purge here in Kiri. I was going to call you to see what you thought about it, But that damned bastard attacked us before I could, she gritted her teeth as he healed her broken arm. We managed to drive him up, but aim here was stabbed by some freaky light sword that reminded me of the Raijin no Ken, and I got this cut on my arm, though we did manage to give him enough damage to retreat. Damn, I'm not strong enough to heal these on my own. He took a few steps away and called up a magic circle before both Rias and Asia appeared. Naruto would have no time, I'm not good at healing and they need help, fast, he said, pointing at Anko and Aang, getting a gasp from the two newcomers. Asia, you help the woman, I'll help Anko. Asia nodded as they both got to work, though Asia stopped in the middle of healing Yuri. Asia, is something wrong? She's dead. Asia sniffed a little at the fact that she couldn't save Kiri's thundering mist. Well, maybe I can do something about that. Naruto got all of their attention as he pulled out a knight piece. I do need a knight after all, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind kicking the ass of the bastard that killed her. Nodding their heads, the three moved back so that Naruto could gain his newest evil piece and first knight. Gently placing the knight on Amuri's chest, Naruto conjured up a magic circle under the swordswoman and closed his eyes in order to concentrate, since this was the first time he had revived someone. In the name of Naruto Uzumaki, Amuri Ringo, hear my command, return from the clutches of death to this realm, rise once more as my servant and rejoice, for you have been given new life, now awaken as my knight and sword. As he came to an end, the circle glowed and the evil piece sunk into her chest, signaling that it was done. For a few minutes the four of them waited before, slowly, Amuri opened her eyes and sat up, looking around the clearing through half-lidded eyes. What happened? I feel like I was stabbed through the gut with a sword, she said as she clutched her head in pain. You were. Amuri froze and jumped up, taking a defensive stance as she turned to face Naruto, Anko, Rias and Asia. But Asia here healed you wound, though you did die, so I brought you back as my devil servant, Naruto said, trying to imitate Rias's superior tone. She had told him that as a higher-class devil he needed to sound and act the part for most people and places, which included being around people he didn't know or people who hurt his family. Who are you and what do you mean devil servant? She asked suspiciously. Well, to put it bluntly, when you died I brought you back to, in a sense, serve as my knight. Basically you just go on missions with me that require your skills, and help me win raiding games when I start participating in them. She had a confused look on her face at that. Sai, don't worry, I'll explain it in more detail later. As for who I am Naruto Uzumaki. Did you say Uzumaki? She asked with wide eyes as she looked closer at him. Are you related to Kushina Uzumaki? Yeah, she was my mom. Why? He asked with a strange feeling that the answer would be pretty complex, yet simple at the same time. Because she was a distant cousin of mine. My full name is Amuri Ringo Uzumaki. I'm one of two survivors of the Uzumaki clan in Kiri, though because of Kiri's past with the Uzumaki clan we both went by our middle names in order to hide and become Kiri Shinobi, she said, getting wide eyes from Naruto. Now that he looked closer at her, he did see the Uzumaki traits in her, such as the red hair, which was similar in color to his own. There's another Uzumaki in Kiri? Amuri nodded her head, causing a small smile to spread across his face. There were other Uzumaki out there. Yeah, her name's Terumi Uzumaki. She's the leader of the Bloodline Rebellion. Naruto's eyes widened at that. He had heard about the rebellion and how the leader was powerful, though he didn't know that the leader was an Uzumaki. In fact, that's what I summoned Anko for. When I got one of these flyers and heard what they did, I thought I'd try it and get some help to win the war and end the blood purge. Rias, how do you feel about fighting in a war? Naruto asked, glancing over at his aunt with look in his eye that she couldn't place. Well, if it's to help out an Uzumaki, I suggest we call the others. Nodding his head in agreement, the two kings moved a few feet away before summoning the rest of their peerage, and Tiamat, or as Naruto called her Tia, and explained the situation to them. So you want us to fight in a war and help put an Uzumaki into a seat of power, so that we have a safe haven in case things go south for us in Konoha? Ross asked, getting a nod from Naruto, who had a small smirk on his face. Alright then, when do we meet this May? If you all follow me, I can lead you to the Bloodline Rebels camp, which is where I was heading when that creep attacked me from behind, Ames said, leading them to the rebels' camp. 2 hours later, Naruto was being crushed to death by a very beautiful woman with long red hair and tears of joy in her green eyes, having just been told that Naruto, the son of one of her best friends and distant cousins Kushina Uzumaki, was going to help them end the war. Oh Naruto, you have no idea how much your help will be appreciated in ending this war, Mei said happily as she crushed the first male Uzumaki she had met in a long time. Naruto and his peerage had just finished explaining all of the basics to her about devils and Naruto's aim to become the next leader of the underworld. With your help we can finally put an end to all of this pointless bloodshed and rebuild Kiri into a true shinobi village, she smiled before leaning into his ear. And we may be able to revive the Uzumaki clan at a later date, she whispered into his ear, giggling as he became as red as his hair. While he may act like a big shot in front of the rest of the village, he was still rather shy around the girls, and he yet to go farther than letting them sleep with him. Hey, back of, he's ours, Akino said, glaring playfully at the future Mizukage, getting a smirk out of her. Oh, but what if I were to join his peerage? Then I could help him in these raiding games and revive the Uzumaki clan. Naruto paled at that. While he loved all of the people around him, he felt that Akino was having a bit too much fun with Mei, and at the rate he was gaining his peerage, he would be fighting in a ratings game sooner rather than later. While Naruto does need more people in his peerage, it's not wise to just pick people at random, Rias said, getting a small sigh out of Naruto. Then again, with Mei's Kekkei Genkai she would make a good pawn. Her speed and strength are already high enough, so making her a knight or a rook would be overkill, and she doesn't really seem like a healer, and since Kara's your queen, making her a pawn would probably be your best course of action, Naruto face faulted. It seemed Rias was planning out his peerage as well, though Mei had a wide grin on her face, which was matched by Rias and Akino. You three aren't going to drop this subject until I make her a pawn, are you? Naruto began to cry anime tears as the three shook their heads, each for different reasons. Mei because she did want to fulfill her mother's dying dream of reviving the Uzumaki clan, and since Naruto was the first male Uzumaki she had met, joining his peerage would give her an excuse to get to know him better and help him revive the Uzumaki clan in the future. Akino because she loved seeing Naruto happy and knew that the bigger his family the happier he'd be, as well as the fact that she loved to mess with him. Rias because she did love Naruto and she wanted him to be strong enough to reach his dream, which meant he would need a strong peerage to help him defeat some of the opponents he would face in the raiding games, such as Riser Phoenix. Sigh, fine, I'll do it, he sighed. He knew he couldn't win against Rias or Akino when they had their mind set on something, and he had the feeling that Mei was impossible to dissuade as well, probably the Uzumaki blood in her. Here, catch. He tossed her a pawn piece which she caught and looked at with interest. Before she could say anything, a magic circle appeared under her as Naruto began turning her into an evil piece. In the name of Naruto Uzumaki, I call out to Mei Terumi, hear my voice and follow its command. The pawn floated up and entered Mei. From this day forward, you shall follow me through thick and thin, as a servant of the Uzumaki house, as my pawn. With that the circle glowed red before leaving Mei standing there with a warm, happy smile on her face. Thank you, Naruto. I swear that I will help you become the most powerful devil ever. I will help you become a great king and father someday. Naruto blushed a little at the mention of being a father before shaking his head to clear it of those thoughts. Now wasn't the time for them. Right now they had a war to plan and win. It was a cool morning in Kiri as Naruto stood on a hill overlooking the village of Kiri, with Mei on his left and Rias on his right. Are you both ready for this? He asked, glancing at both of them, getting nods in return before they turned to see the bloodline users of Kiri behind them, all ready for the final battle to reclaim Kirigakyo from Yugura. Alright, everyone listen up. Everyone turned to face Mei, all of them standing at attention. Today is the day we take back Kiri. I can't promise that the battle will be easy or that everyone will survive, but know that today, Yugura will fall and Kiri will be free. At her words everyone cheered before they all tensed, waiting for the signal to attack. Alright, let's do this, you ready, Kara? At her nod, both of them ran towards the village as Naruto went over the plan one more time in his head. Flashback. Naruto, Rias, Tiamat, and Kurama stood around a map of Kiri as Mei pointed out all of the key locations in the village that they would hit. As you can see, all of these locations will be the best places to strike if we want to win this war. If we take all of them, the only thing we would have to worry about would be Yugura. Naruto glanced at Kara, getting a nod of her head. We'll take care of Yugura. All of the girls looked at him for an explanation. Look, Yugura's a Jinchuriki with full control of the Sanbai. The only chance we have against him is if me and Kara lead him away from the village and kill him. How? Mei asked curiously. I plan to extract Sanbai from him. Mei raised her eyes in surprise at his answer. I promised Kara that I would help her free all of the Bijou, and I plan to follow through with that. Alright, just be careful. Naruto nodded before they went back to planning. Flashback end. Remember Naruto, in order to pull off a full transformation, you need to focus. Naruto nodded as the two approached the gate, before they were stopped by Yugura and 3 Kiri shinobi. What are you doing here? Yugura demanded in a flat, emotionless tone which told Kara that he wasn't in control of himself. We're here to free you from whoever's controlling you. Naruto glanced at Kara before he looked into Yugura's eyes, and his widened in understanding. Someone was controlling Yugura. I don't know what you mean, but since you refuse to answer my question, you will die. Yugura lunged at them with his staff, only to stop as Naruto caught it, surprising the Kiri shinobi watching. Now that wasn't very nice. Here, let me help you with that, Naruto said as he punched a stunned Yugura into a nearby building, shocking many of the surrounding Kiri shinobi and causing nearby civilians to flee in fright. You'll pay for that. Naruto raised an eyebrow as Yugura emerged from the building in the first phase of the Jinchuriki cloak, with all 3 tails swaying behind him. You two are in for it now. Lord Yugura has never lost when he enters his tailed beast mode, yelled a random Kiri loyalist with a smirk, which left his face, and the faces of the other Kiri loyalists, as Naruto smirked. Alright then, if that's how you want to play it, let's take this up a notch. Naruto chuckled as chakra began to swirl around him before he was covered in a dome of chakra. When the dome vanished, Naruto was revealed in the second stage of the Jinchuriki cloak. With a loud roar, Naruto blew everything around him away, before he shot at Yura and punched him, sending him through the center of the village, before giving chase. The rebel forces watched in awe and terror as Naruto fought Yura, who had gone into his own second form, on even ground, the two causing a trail of destruction until they were outside of the village. Alright everyone, now is our chance. With Yura out of the village, it's time for use to take back our home, so let's go. With a loud roar, the members of the Kiri rebel forces charged of the village hidden in the mist, intent on taking their home back. Naruto panted heavily as he stood over unconscious form of Yura, who was in a crater they made during their fight. The fight itself was more of a blur to Naruto than anything. Once the two of them were outside the village, they both entered their tailed beast mode, which was where everything became hazy since Naruto could only hold his full release for about 10 minutes. Looks like it's finally over, Naruto panted as he kneeled next to the unconscious Jinchuriki. I'm sorry I can't break you free of whoever's controlling you, but I will make sure no one harms Aisabu. Naruto tore open Yugura's shirt, revealing the seal on his chest. Before he could release Aisabu, the Sanbai no Kaide game, Naruto grabbed Yura and moved out of the way as a blast of light hit the spot he had been standing. Now, I can't let a filthy devil have our weapon now, can I? Naruto narrowed his eyes at the person who had shot at them. Who the hell are you? Naruto growled out as his kitsune's fortune appeared on his arms and he analyzed the man. The man was rather young, with white hair and red eyes. He was wearing a priest's outfit which told Naruto that he was some sort of exorcist. Oh, how rude of me. My name is Selzen, and I'm the one who's going to rid this world of filthy devils like yourself, he said with a deranged smile as Naruto's eyes narrowed. He remembered Anko telling him the name of the person that attacked her, as well as Rias telling him about the encounter she had with him. So you're freed, Selzen. Thank you so much for coming to me. Selzen raised an eyebrow in confusion before coughing up blood as a clawed hand gripped his still beating heart, through the new hole in his chest. It saves me the trouble of finding you. You attacked my rook, and new knight a few days ago, so now you die. Before Selzen could utter a word, Naruto crushed the still beating heart in his hand, killing the exorcist. With the exorcist dead, Naruto returned to Yugura's body and removed Aisabu from him. Once the bijou was full out of its host, a light engulfed it as it began to shrink down as it took a human form. When Aisabu was in its human form, the light vanished to reveal a girl that looked about 10 with seafoam green hair lying unconscious. Smiling at the sight of the youngest of the bijou, Naruto summoned a blanket and wrapped it around the girl before picking her up bridal style and carrying her back to Kiri. Naruto smiled as he stood outside the gates of Kiri, preparing to leave with Rias and her peerage back to Konoha, along with their newest addition, Aisabu, who was clutching onto Naruto's arm. You will all remember to visit, won't you? Naruto turned to look at Mei and Amiri, both of whom were staying in Kiri in order to help rebuild, or run the village as Mizukage in Mei's case. Don't worry, Mei, we'll visit, can't just forget my pawn and knight now, can I? Naruto chuckled before the two Uzumaki women kissed him, getting a small glare from Aisabu and a chuckle from Rias. Don't worry, we promise that we'll visit, Rias smiled before she summoned a teleportation circle before they all left for Konoha. Sai, can you please explain that again? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked, pinching the bridge of his nose, trying to stave off the headache that was trying to emerge thanks to the information Naruto had just given him regarding where him and his team had been the last few days. What's so hard to understand, old man? We were summoned to Kiri and helped end the blood purge, and got little Aisabu here, Naruto said with a wide grin as he wrapped his arm around Aisabu, who blushed at the contact, causing Rias and Akino to giggle since they thought it was cute the way the little bijou was acting. That's the problem, Naruto. You acted in another nation's problems without permission, which could have caused a war between Kiri and Konoha. The old man sighed, getting a shrug from Naruto, since he didn't see a problem. Don't worry, old man, we were summoned through a devil contract, meaning we had no connection to Konoha while we preformed this request, therefore, you have nothing to worry about, Rias said, gaining the old Hokage's attention, causing him to sigh, seeing as she was right. Sigh, very well then, are you four at least rested enough to take a mission? The 4 devil shinobi nodded their heads. Very well then, I will be sending you on an A-ranked mission. This caused them to raise their eyebrows in surprise. A few days ago I sent Team 7 on a C-ranked escort mission, which upgraded to an A-ranked mission when the team encountered one Zabuza Momochi and his apprentice. Your team is to take over the mission with Team 7 acting as your backup. You are to protect the bridge builder Tazuna, and if you get the chance, kill a man named Gato. Don't worry, old man, we'll be back before you know it, Anko said with a grin before turning back to her team. So you 3 Gakis ready to go? They 3 genin devils nodded their heads. Alright then, let's move out. With that said, the 4 devils and 1 clingy bijou leapt out of the Hokage's office and headed towards their next mission. Naruto was twitching in annoyance. The reason, his uncle Serzex was acting like an idiot as he hugged Rias, rubbing his cheek against her head while Grafia stood a few feet away, a small tick mark above her left eye, while another girl stood next to her and giggled at the way his uncle was acting. Now normally this wouldn't be a problem, since both Grafia and Rias had told him about Serzex's strange behavior when it came to Rias. No, the problem was that the 3 devils had appeared in the middle of his fight with Zabuza's apprentice. Uncle Serzex, the leader of the Satan, stopped what he was doing and looked over at Naruto. Not that we're not happy to see you or anything, but would you mind telling us what you're doing here, since you kind of interrupted a battle? Naruto gestured towards Haku, Zabuza's apprentice, who was simply staring at the weird scene. Oh right, well I'm actually here for a few things, he said, releasing Rias and standing up straight, giving him a more intimidating appearance. The first would be to introduce you to a friend and college of mine. He motioned towards the girl standing next to Graphia, who simply waved with a small smile. Naruto, I would like to introduce you to Seraphal Leviathan, the only female member of the Four Satans. It's nice to finally meet you, Naruto. Serzex told us all about you, she smirked. Seraphal was, in Naruto's opinion, hot, not to the same level as Rias, Akino, or Mei, but she was definitely up there. She had long straight black hair tied twin ponytails that reached her waist and light purple eye. She was wearing a pink, magical girl costume which gave her a childlike appearance. It's nice to meet you as well, Naruto said a little nervously, since he never expected to meet another Satan so soon, least of all one that was as hot as Seraphal. The other reason I came is to see how your Peerage is coming along. Naruto blinked at that. Since you're going to be the next head of the Uzumaki house, you need to have a strong Peerage in order to help you win ratting games. Well, my Peerage is bigger than the last time you were here, Naruto chuckled, since it was true his Peerage was now a pretty good size with Mei, Ringo and Kurama joining Anko. That gave him 4 members, each of whom were strong in their own rights. That's good, you're going to need them soon, Serzex said, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow in question. You see, there's something I forgot to mention when it came to you marrying Rias, he chuckled nervously while Rias's eyes widened. No way, it can't be, that contract was null and void, you said so yourself, Rias said, getting a confused look from everyone on the bridge. What contract? Naruto asked, looking between Rias and Serzex. Sai, when I was little my parents made a marriage contract between me and a guy named Riser Phoenix, the youngest heir to the Phoenix family. Rias spat Riser's name out in disgust. Apparently the contract is still intact, meaning I'm technically engaged to Riser. She had a disgusted look at the thought. Which is why I have come to check up on Naruto's Peerage. Everyone turned their attention towards Serzex. When I learned that the marriage contract with the Phoenix family was still active, I tried to find a way to break it, and there are only 2 ways. Which are? Naruto asked, growing a little impatient at his uncle's stalling. To either play a ratings game, where the winner gets to marry Rias, or you take Rias's virginity. Both Rias and Naruto blushed at the second option. Are those really the only options? Naruto asked, glancing over at Rias, who was almost as red as her hair. He wasn't against the second option, since both of them had talked about having a large family after they were married and Rias had declared that she was going to take his virginity. He just didn't like the idea of forcing Rias to have sex with him before she was ready. Unfortunately, yes, and since I know you don't like forcing others to do something against their will, I have set up a ratings game, Serzex said seriously. However, since this is your first rating game, you need at least one of each piece before you can participate. Yo, the group of devil all blinked in surprise before turning to face Zabuza, who had an annoyed look on his face, though it was hard to tell with the bandages on. Sorry to interrupt this little family reunion or whatever the hell this is, Naruto, Anko, and Seraphal all snorted at his choice of words, but can it wait? I still have a job to do. He lifted his sword, Kubikuribocho, and pointed it at the client Tazuna, who was surrounded by Team 7, all of whom had confused looks on their faces. Sorry, but we can't let you do that, Kakashi said, moving to block Zabuza's path in case he attacked. No, but we can summon someone who wants to talk to you, Zabuza. Naruto smirked as he remembered Mei's request should he run across any of the remaining 7 swordsmen or their blades. Understanding what Naruto was about to do, all of the devils moved over next to Team 7 and their client, while getting a raised eyebrow from Zabuza and Team 7. Raising his hands, Naruto summoned a magical circle, chanting under his breath as the circle lit up, blinding everyone except for the devils. As the light died down, everyone stared in awe as Mei and Amiri appeared on the bridge, with small annoyed looks on their faces. Naruto, this had better be important. We were just about to sit down for some ramen. Both Naruto and the 2 Gremry members shuddered at what that, while Kakashi, Anko and Zabuza all paled. All 3 learned the hard way at one point, you never take ramen away from an Uzumaki, no matter what. Gulp, I'm sorry, I didn't know you 2 were getting ready to eat the sacred food, Naruto said, bowing before the 2 Uzumaki women in apology. If I had known I wouldn't have summoned you yet. The 2 looked between each other before letting out a small sigh. Fine, we'll let it slide this time. Naruto let out a breath he didn't know he was holding when Mei said those words. Now why did you summon us? Amiri asked as Naruto pointed. Looking in the direction he was pointing, both Uzumaki women blinked in surprise as Zabuza began sweating. Well, look at what we have here. If it isn't little Zabuza, it's been a while, hasn't it? Aim said with a smirk as she drew the Kiba blades, which began to spark in excitement. Aim, Mei, what are you 2 doing here? Zabuza said, taking a small step back. He may have been known as the Demon of the Mist and the one to wipe out an entire graduating class without even being a student, but he never went up against the two before him if he could help it since he was scared of both of them. He had seen Mei melt a guy's balls of because he called her old, and he had seen Yuri when she was pissed off. He shuddered at the memory. Well, our king here summoned us, Mei said, wrapping an arm around Naruto. I'm guessing there's a reason other than little Zabuza. Yeah, my uncle wanted to meet my entire Peerage, Naruto smirked, pointing towards Selzen, who waved. Apparently, we have to fight a raiding game before I can marry Rias. I see, and I'm guessing there's some kind of conditions that need to be met before we can participate, Mei said, getting a small nod from Naruto. He needs to have at least one member for each of his evil pieces. The three Uzumaki turned to Rias as she walked up to them. If he doesn't find a bishop before the beginning of the game, he forfeits the game, and I have to marry an ass named Razor Phoenix. So we just need to find a bishop before this game and then win the game. Sounds easy enough, Aim said, looking around the bridge. Her eyes landed on Sakura. Before she shuddered, she could spot a fangirl a mile away, and she hated fangirls. She also looked at the two women next to Selzen. Before shaking her head, she could tell they were very powerful, more powerful than Naruto was now. Her eyes then fell on the girl next to Zabuza and a smirk appeared on her face. Well, how about her? She pointed over at Haku, who had removed her hunter mask. Hal blinked in confusion as to why one of the 7 swords men was pointing at her. She's cute. Her reserves are pretty high if my sensory skills haven't failed, and if my nose is working right, I can smell medicinal herbs on her, meaning she has some knowledge of medicine. And isn't it the bishop's job to heal the rest of the Peerage? Well, that is true, and from the small fight we had before Selzen showed up I know she's strong. Yeah, that could work, Naruto said, thinking it over. While it was true he needed to fill up the rest of his Peerage, he also wanted to make sure his team was balanced, not just thrown together at random. Then again, Haku did meet all of the criteria. She was strong thanks to the training she received from Zabuza, and if Yuri was right about her knowing about medicine, then she would fit in just fine. Yo Haku, how would you like to join our family? Haku and Zabuza both jumped in surprise as Naruto appeared behind the two with a smirk on his face. What? She blinked at the random question she was asked. Sai, look, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm a devil. Both looked like they were about to say something before Naruto spread his bat-like wings, causing the two to gape at him. In order to save my aunt/fiancé over there, they glanced over at Rias, who waved at them. From marrying some stuck-up, I need to fight him in something called a raiding game, which is sort of like a chess game. The only problem is that I need a bishop in order to participate, and since the bishop is the main healer of the team, and you know a bit about healing if Zabuza here is any indication, I was hoping you would become my bishop and join the family. What would happen to me if I became a bishop for you? And what about Master Zabuza? I can't just leave him, she asked, glancing at the Rouge Nin. Well, you become a devil like me, and we'll explain more about the devil culture to you, he glanced at Zabuza with a smirk. As for Bandage Boy over here, I'm sure I can talk things over with Mei and come up with something. Well, if that don't warm your heart. Everyone blinked as a new voice appeared on the bridge. Turning in the direction of the voice, everyone saw a short, fat little man with a cast on his arm and an army of bandits behind him. It warms mine so much that I just want to puke. I think it's giving me heartburn. The bandits began to chuckle at the stupid joke. Gato, what are you doing here? Zabuza asked, glaring at the fat midget at the monkey suit. I was wondering what was taking you so long, so I came to check on you, and what do I find? You talking to a brat and a group of bitches. Naruto's eyes narrowed and began glowing red at the fat man's words. Of course it doesn't matter now, since you're obviously too stupid to do the job. I'll just let these guys kill you, then they can have fun with all the bitches behind you, except for the busted one with the blood-red hair. She's mine. He began to chuckle, thinking he'd won. Suddenly, everyone minus the two Satans fell to their knees, panting for breath as a dark and ominous aura of power descended on the bridge. Turning towards the source of the power, everyone's eyes widened as they saw Naruto, his eyes glowing blood-red while a dark and powerful aura swirled around him, taking the form of a giant dragon which roared. Wow, and I thought Ophis was powerful, Seraphol said as they watched the power swirling around the young devil. And just think, he's barely touching the surface of his power, Selzen said seriously, watching his nephew with pride. That small amount of power he was currently giving of was enough to rival any of the 4 Satans, and if trained properly, he could easily rival if not surpass Ophis. Should we stop him? Selzen shook his head, watching as Naruto slowly began to move towards Gato, but not before taking the Kubikuribocho from Zabuza. You know, for a short, fat, ugly man you sure are stupid, Naruto said, slowly walking towards Gato, Kubikuribocho dragging behind him, giving him a scary, deadly look. You had already dug yourself a grave and built your own coffin with what you've been doing to this village. You began nailing yourself into that coffin when you threatened to let these pieces of trash touch my family. But the final nail was when you threatened to rape Rias. Please have mercy, Gato gasped out as the crushing feeling in the air increased. Sorry, all out of mercy. With that, Naruto raised the Zanbato above his head, chakra swirling around it, before bringing it down on the fat dwarf and his army, unleashing his first blast of destruction, completely obliterating Gato and his army, as well as the rest of the bridge and a small chunk of the mainland. leaving a deep gash in the surface of the earth. With the source of his anger dead, Naruto turned his glance around the bridge as his power began to recede. Once his eyes landed on Rias, who had a small smile on her face and tears in her eyes. A small smile appeared on his lips before his eyes rolled into the back of his head and he fell forward, into the open arms of Rias, who gently kissed him on the forehead as he slipped into unconsciousness. Naruto let out a small sigh as he sat against the wall across from the cell that held the person suspended in animation. This was the only place in the house he found that he could be alone. Apparently the person inside the cell gave of a holy feeling that made the others sick. It had been a month since the incident on the bridge. After Naruto had regained consciousness, Rias and the others told him what he did on the bridge, and Selzen showed him a recording of his power, which scared him. Having that much power and no control meant he could hurt anyone, including his family. After that they had spent a week in Wave while waiting for the bridge to be finished. During that time Naruto had talked to both Haku and Zabuza, and in the end added both of them to his peerage, Haku becoming his bishop while Zabuza became a pawn. He also spent the week learning how to use his powers of destruction with Rias and Selzen. Once the week was over, the two teams returned to Konoha while Mei and Amiri, along with Zabuza and Haku, returned to Kiri in order to prepare for the upcoming Chunin exams and the raiding game. Upon returning to the village, the two teams were given a week to rest, which they took advantage of, only for Naruto to be called to Kumo to finalize the treaty between Kumo and the Uzumaki clan, which was sealed with Yujitoni the Nibi Jinchuriki becoming one of his pawns, while the Hachibi Jinchuriki became his second rook. With the treaty complete, Naruto returned to Konoha only to be brought before the council, who had found out about his treaties with Kiri and Kumo thanks to Team 7's big mouths, which ended badly after he used his power of destruction on Danzo, who was making demands from him that he didn't have the right to. Which led to his current place in the basement. He was trying to wrap his head around everything that was happening to him. Within a few months of having his heritage reviled to him, he had ended a war, made a treaty with 2 major villages and saved an entire country. Sigh, why me? Why is all of this stuff happening to me? A few months ago I would have been ecstatic to have all of this stuff happening to me, but now, I don't know anymore. He leaned against the wall before looking at the door to the cell. I wonder if you ever felt like this before you were placed in that cell. Uncle Selzen said you were powerful. He also said you were wise when needed, though you were a real airhead. He chuckled at the thought of the beauty in the cell being an airhead. Suddenly an idea hit him. The woman inside the cell had a holy feeling, indicating she was an angel, and Selzen said he had the potential to use the powers of angels, though he was still trying to figure out how to use his new power of destruction. Maybe this person could help him unlock his angel powers and teach him how to use them, as well as give him advice from a different point of view. With that thought in mind, Naruto opened the door and entered the cell, the seals deactivating upon his entry. Rias let out a small sigh as she sat on the couch in the living room, slowly setting down her tea that Asia had made. It had been nearly a month since their first real mission as shinobi, and ever since their return to Konoha Naruto had been acting strange, and it was starting to unnerve her. "President, are you alright?" Rias looked up to see Asia looking at her with a hint of worry. "Yes, I'm fine, Asia. Thank you for worrying though." Rias smiled before going back to looking over the letter in her hands. It was a request for an arranged marriage from the Phoenix clan, apparently word that the Uzumaki clan, which was one of the 5 strongest clans in the underworld, had a surviving heir, and the Phoenix clan were trying to make a stake on Naruto before any of the other clans by offering the only daughter of the clan, Revel Phoenix, up in a marriage contract. "Asia, tell me, where are the others at?" Rias asked, putting the letter down, contemplating whether or not she should show Naruto. "Well, Naruto is in the basement again. I think he's trying to think things through." Rias nodded her head in understanding. Ever since the incident in Wave, Naruto had spent a lot of his time in front of the cell. Apparently the holy presence of the person in the cell helped Naruto calm down a lot and think. She assumed it had something to do with his angel blood. Akino and Anko went into the village. "I think they went to get dangos." Rias chuckled at that. She was surprised at how similar the two were. Sometimes she thought they might have been sisters if she didn't know better. "Kaneko is helping Irika at the academy and Kiba is training with Tenten." Rias nodded at that. Irika had become one of Kaneko's regular summoners, having her help him with his academy classes, and Tenten had become intent on beating Kiba in a sword fight. Ross, Zenobia and Gasper all went to Kumo to help train Yujito and B. Again Rias nodded. After he had returned from Kumo and explained the contract to her, she had sent the 3 of to help train Naruto's newest Peerage members. "I see, that's good. And what of my brother and Seraphol?" Both Satans had become regulars around the house and village, always popping up unannounced. Hell, once Selzen called a meeting between the leaders of the 3 fractions. He had brought the other 2 Satans while the head of the angels, Michael, appeared, followed by the head of the fallen, Azazel, both of who were shocked when they meet Naruto. While both men were initially shocked at the prospect of a boy being able to use the powers of the 3 fractions, all 3 men agreed that if Naruto could learn to control his powers, as well as live with members from the 3 fractions, it would pave a new path to peace between the fractions, one none of them had ever considered before. I think they're meeting with the Hokage about having the ratings game before the final round of the Chunin exam, as a way to reveal our presence to the rest of the village and world. Rias sighed at that, though she knew he had some kind of reason for it. By the way, where is Issei? Rias asked. She had just remembered her perverted little pawn. Oh well, he went to the hot springs again with Azazel. They met a man there, and I think they'd become friend with him, she said, thinking of the white-haired man she had seen the two talking to before. As long as the idiot's actions don't fall back on use, it should be fine. Both girls turned to the door as Naruto appeared, a small smile on his face. Hello Naruto, are you feeling better? Rias stood up and pulled Naruto into a small hug once he made it over to the couch. Yeah, I managed to sort through my thoughts, and I had a little help. He turned towards the door where a tall woman with shoulder-length curly blonde hair, sky-blue eyes, and a voluptuous figure which was hidden under the white dress she was wearing, which seemed to cling to her. Oh hello, I hope I'm not interrupting? The woman said with a smile. Don't worry, you're not interrupting, but I thought you were going to head back to heaven. Rias and Asia's eyes widened at Naruto's words. Yes I am, but I was just making sure you were alright after our talk. Naruto smiled and nodded at her, getting a smile from the woman. Alright then, I'll see you as soon as I meet with little Michael. He must be so worried with me being gone, and leaving him to run heaven alone with the other two. With another smile the woman left in a flash of light. Naruto, who was that? Rias asked, folding her arms under her, pushing them up. The person in the dungeon, Gabriel the Seraph. The two devils' eyes widened at that. I don't know why she was locked down there and I honestly don't care, but I figured it was time to release her, and she also helped me sort through my thoughts. That's good, so what did you decide? Rias asked with a small smile before she was pulled into a deep, passionate kiss, which she eagerly and hungrily returned. Wow, where did that come from? That was my promise to kick Riser's ass in the ratings game, and to do whatever I can to make you happy. With a small smile on her face, Rias pulled him into another kiss. Well, if you really want to make me happy, then you can help me with something. Rias led him to his room where she locked the door and activated the silencing seal on the room before tackling Naruto onto the bed in a deep kiss. Lemon, Rias, are you sure about this? Naruto asked as Rias removed their cloths, throwing them into a corner of the room. Yes, Naruto, I'm sure. Once both of them were naked, she crawled on top of him, pinning him down as she kissed him. We've been together for about 4 months now, and while I do love sleeping with you and being held by you, I think it's time we connected on a much deeper level, she smirked, as she grinded against Naruto's third leg, which was getting bigger while her lower lips became wetter. I know, but I didn't want to push you into anything, he said, receiving a kiss. I know, and I'm grateful for that, but this is something that I decided I want, she smiled before lining him up with her, his head low, pushing past her lips as she moved to where she was sitting on his head. Rias, before you go any farther, are you sure you want this now? Naruto asked. He had learned about sex form Anko when he was younger, and he did want to have it with Rias, but he wanted her to be sure she wanted this, since there was no going back for either of them after this. Instead of answering him, she simply smirked before dropping herself onto him, her back arching in as she held back a scream of pain and pleasure as he tore through her hymen, before she fell onto his chest, panting, tears in her eyes, as she waited for the pain to subside. Are you alright? Naruto asked, brushing her beautiful crimson hair out of her face and looking into her deep blue-green eyes. I'm fine, Naruto, just trying to adjust to the size, she said, wiggling her hips a little since the pain had subsided. Once she had adjusted to Naruto's size, she began to move her hips up and down while pulling Naruto into a tongue battle. Oh, this feels so good, Rias moaned out after the two broke their tongue fight, Rias sitting up and bouncing up and down as Naruto thrust into her. Yeah, I know what you mean, Naruto grunted as Rias continued to bounce on him, both picking up speed. Rias, I'm about to come, Naruto grunted after a few more minutes. Then come, release everything inside me. She fell back onto his chest and kissed him. But what if you get pregnant? He asked, getting a sultry smile from the busty red head. Then I'll give you another reason to become stronger, Naruto smirked before pulling her into a deep kiss as he released his load deep inside of her, before they both passed out from exhaustion, Naruto still deep inside of Rias. Lemon end. A few hours later, after tucking Rias into bed and taking a quick shower, Naruto headed downstairs in a pair of pants. As he turned into the living room, he stopped at seeing Selzen sitting across from some people he didn't know, but made him angry for some reason. Ah, Naruto, you're finally up. I hope you had a good rest, Graphius said, making his presence known to the other two. Yeah, it was good, so, mind telling me why you brought some strange people into my home? Naruto asked, looking at the four sitting on his couch. The first was a man that looked to be in his mid-30s, with shoulder-length blonde hair and calculating blue eye that were currently observing him. The man was wearing fancy cloths, telling Naruto he was probably important. The second was a woman with long blonde hair tied in a bun and teal eyes, whom he assumed was the man's wife. The third person was a guy in his early 20s with blonde hair and blue eyes. He was wearing a red jacket and black pants and had an air about him that was pissing Naruto off. The last member of the group was a girl about his age with curly blonde hair tied up in twin ponytails with bright blue eyes and a small blush as she glanced at him. She was wearing a pink frilly dress and had a strange feel to her that Naruto couldn't quite place. Naruto, I would like to introduce you to Lord and Lady Phoenix. They are the head of the Phoenix clan, Selzen said as the man stood up and gave a small bow to Naruto, who inclined his head in return. Next we have their daughter, Revel Phoenix. The girl stood up and curtsied to Naruto, who gave a small wave. And finally we have their third son, Riser Phoenix. Naruto's eyes narrowed as the man smirked. So this is the prick Rias was engaged to. Looks like some pretty rich boy to me, Naruto said, getting a scowl from Riser and a small smirk from Grafia. Well, now that we've met, you can leave. I have training I need to get back to. What's the matter, kid? You scared to face me? Naruto's eyes narrowed at Riser, who was smirking. Well, you don't have to worry, I actually came to offer you a deal. He snapped his fingers and 14 other women, each wearing a different costume, appeared in a flash of light. You call of your engagement to Rias, and in exchange I will give you 2 of my girls. Sound fair? I say kiss my ass, pretty boy. Naruto flipped him off with a small smirk. I'm not breaking off my engagement to Rias, not even if Selzen himself ordered me to, so go fuck yourself. You know, I was trying to be nice and save you the humiliation, but now I've changed my mind, Riser said with a superior smirk on his face, thinking he was already going to win. Then how about a small bet? Everyone turned to the door to see Kara standing there along with the rest of Naruto's peerage. Mei, what are you guys doing here? Naruto asked, seeing Mei standing with Haku and 2 other Kiri genin behind her, while B stood with Yuuto and 2 other Kumo genin behind him. We decided to come a week early, even though the exams begin in a week. Us being here early allows teams from other nations to scout out their competition. Mei smirked, getting an understanding nod from Naruto. As for what Kara was saying, I think a bet would be interesting. What do you have in mind? Riser asked, eyeing Mei and Kara with lust in his eyes. Simple. Along with relinquishing their marriage contract to Rias, the loser of the game must give up their entire peerage to the winner. Naruto's eyes widened at Kara's stakes. While he had no doubt that they could easily win, he didn't think Kara would risk his entire family on a stupid game. Very well, I agree to these terms, Riser said, getting wide-eyed from his own peerage, as well as Naruto, since he had basically just handed them to the shinobi devils. The terms for a bet have been made and accepted, Selzen said with a small smile. Under my name, Selzen Lucifer, I find the terms of this bet acceptable. At Selzen's decree, Riser bowed to the Devil King before leaving, soon followed by the rest of the members of the Phoenix clan. Once the Phoenix clan members were gone, Naruto turned to his uncle with small glare, which vanished at seeing the confident look his uncle had for him to win. You know, I hate you so much right now, Naruto said, causing his uncle's smile to grow. So do you know where the ratting game's going to be held? Since Rias told me they are held in a small dimension that takes on a different form for each game. The game will be played in a replica of Konoha. Riser said it would be enjoyable to beat you in your own home, Grafia said with a small bow, getting a smirk from Naruto. So, he wants to play in a shinobi village. Alright then, I'll show him how shinobi play. With a small smirk, Naruto headed for the door. Where are you going? Mei asked curiously, since no one else seemed intent to ask the question that was on their minds. Simple, I'm going to plan for this stupid game, and to gather a few secret weapons. I am a shinobi after all. With a smirk, Naruto left the living room to get changed before leaving the house. He had a ratings game to prepare for. Sigh, it's finally here, the first day of the Chunin exams. Naruto let out a small tired sigh as he gathered his supplies for the exams, as well as his remaining evil pieces and his new Brave Saint cards he received from Michael. So are you ready for this? Naruto turned to see Rias leaning against the door frame of their room with a small smirk on her face. Yeah, just gathering the rest of my things. Nodding at his response, the 2 headed for the front door, where they found Akino waiting for them with a small smirk on her face. With a small nod and a kiss from Rias's queen, the 3 of them headed up for the site of the first exam. So this is the place of the first exam? Akino asked curiously once they reached the academy, where the written part of the exam would be held. Even though she wasn't supposed to, Anko, who was acting as proctor for the second part of the exam, had explained the first and second parts of the exam to Selzen and Grafia in detail. The fact that the 3 of them, Yuuto's team and Haku's team, were all in the same room was pure coincidence. Yeah, come on, let's go, before Naruto stopped talking and groaned at hearing an annoyingly familiar voice from behind them. Looks like the dobe is here as well. Turning, Team Devil saw Team 7 standing behind them, Sasuke wearing his superior smirk on his face. If you 3 losers are competing, then this exam will be a breeze for an elite like me. I'm sorry, did you say something? Team 7 looked at Naruto with anger in their eyes as he glanced lazily over a book at them, Rias and Akino fighting hard not to laugh at their expressions. Let's go, Naruto smirked behind his book as Sasuke stormed off, followed closely by his teammates. Well, now that that's over with, shall we get to the room? Nodding in agreement, Rias summoned a magic circle which teleported them to the door of the room. Opening the door, the 3 devils blinked in surprise at the number of people that were already in the room. Glancing around, Naruto caught eyes with a number of people, all of whom gave him a small nod of acknowledgement. The first group was of Yuuto and her two teammates Omoi and Karui. Omoi and Karui were B's original students, with Yuuto filling in for their third teammate who made Chunin through a field promotion. The second group consisted of Haku and her two teammates, Jojuro, who was also a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, and Gurin, the Wilder of the Crystal Release bloodline and one of Naruto's pawns. After learning about devils and everything, Gurin asked to become one of Naruto's pawns in order to get rid of the curse seal she had from Orochimaru, which he agreed to after thinking about it for a while. The third group was a team from Suna, consisting of Gaara no Sabaku, and his teammates and siblings Temari and Kankuro. At the sight of the Sand siblings, as Naruto had decided to call them, much to Kankuro's annoyance, Naruto remembered the day he met them. Flashback. Naruto let out a small sigh as he walked down the streets of Konoha, looking at the deck of cards in his hands. After the bet with Riser was made, he had gone to get some things from Michael and Gabriel for the upcoming raiding game, which ended up with him getting one of 4 sets of cards known as Brave Saints, which were the Angel's version of the evil pieces. Gabriel had given him the set that was originally made for her, making him the King of Heart, before she took her place as the Queen of Hearts. After that, Michael explained about the cards and how they were a way to help angels to grow in numbers. Sigh, why is my life so complicated? He wondered looking through the cards, all of which were blank except for the Queen, which had a picture of Gabriel on it. I go to ask for help and they stick me with this, telling me it would be good to gather a full deck. Before he could think any more on the subject, he heard a scream. Curious, he followed the sound until he came upon a strange sight. A teen about a year older than him wearing a black cat suit and wearing purple makeup was holding Konoha, the Hokage's grandson, by his scarf, while 3 other academy students hid behind Sakura, who was staring dreamily at Sasuke as he ordered the foreign shinobi to drop the kid. Naruto let out another sigh before glancing at the blonde-haired girl standing behind the makeup boy. She had a Suna headband tied around her neck telling Naruto where they were from, before his eyes traveled to a red-headed boy in the trees, their eyes meeting for a brief second. Will all of you brats shut up? This little punk ran into me, so I'm going to teach him a lesson, then I'll teach you all the same lesson. Konoha closed his eyes as the boy drew back his fist, preparing for a punch, which never came. Opening his eyes, a grin appeared on his face at the sight of Naruto holding the boy's arm. You know, it's not very nice to attack someone from another village, especially if that person is the Hokage's grandson. The boy froze and dropped Konoha, who ran back to his friends. And even though you're the son of the Kazekage, I don't think that would save you from the umbu on the roof. Naruto glanced at a nearby roof. The 2 Suna genin's eyes followed his gaze before widening at the sight of a full squad of umbu perched lazily on the roof, watching the events play out. Of course, by the way your teammates glaring at you formed that tree, I think he'd kill you before the umbu. Everyone's eyes snapped to the tree where they saw the redhead glaring at the boy. Kankuro, you're an embarrassment to our village, the boy said in a bored tone. Gaara, I can explain. You see, shut up or I'll kill you. Kankuro stopped talking as the redhead vanished in a swirl of sand, reappearing next to the girl. Releasing Kankuro, Naruto turned to face Gaara. They are locking onto each other's, Gaara's becoming yellow with a black 4-pointed star while Naruto's became red with slits for pupils, before returning to normal. I apologize for my teammate's behavior. Kankuro shrunk away from Gaara's glare. My name is Gaara no Sabaku. It's nice to meet you, Gaara. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, head of the Uzumaki clan. It's nice to meet you. Naruto smiled before glancing at the cards in his hand. Michael said he needed more members of his saints, and he did promise to free the Bijou from their host, and he could tell that Gaara held one of the 5 remaining Bijou. Come, we're leaving. Turning, Gaara began to leave before stopping as Naruto appeared before him, looking him up and down. Judging by the sand surrounding you like armor and the way your eyes gained a 4-pointed star, I'm going to guess that you hold Shikaku, the one-tailed Bijou, inside of you, correct? The 3 Suna shinobi froze at those words. You know, if you want, I can get her out for you. Are you crazy? Removing a Bijou from the host kills the host, the girl said as if Naruto didn't already know that. And you are? Temari no Sabaku. I'm Gaara's older sister, she said with a smirk. Well, Temari, you're right. Removing a Bijou will kill the hosts, but I have a way to bring them back, if you're interested. Naruto smirked, getting a disbelieving look from Temari and a curious look from Gaara. How? Naruto smirked at Gaara's question before motioning for them to follow him, leading the 3 to his house and leaving an irritated Sasuke. Flashback end. After that initial meeting, Naruto took them to his house and explained things to them about angels, devils and fallen. Before telling them about his new brave saints, he also introduced them to Kara, Isabu, Matatabi or Mata as she preferred to be called, and Gyuki, the only male Bijou currently free. Once the introductions were over, with Gaara requested to become one of his brave saints, with Temari as well, which Naruto agreed to, making the Gaara his ace of hearts and Temari his 2 of hearts, much to their joy. Well, look what the cat dragged in, the 3 devils sighed at the sound of the voice. Turning their heads, they saw Kiba walking up to them with Shino and Hinata following behind, Hinata glaring at Rias and Akino. Oh great, the Mutt's here. Kiba twitched at Akino's words, knowing he couldn't do anything about them. After the mission to Wave, while wandering around the village alone, Akino had run into Kiba and his team. Kiba, being an idiot, had tried to force Akino to go on a date with him, which ended up with him being struck with a bolt of lightning. Man, this is so troublesome. The 6th genin turned to find Team 10 headed over to them. Well, this is a surprise. I figured you would do whatever it took to keep your lazy ass from having to participate in these exams. Rias smirked at the twitch that appeared in Shikamaru's eye. Sigh, it's too troublesome to explain. He sighed as he glanced at Ino, who was hanging off of Sasuke, seeing as Team 7 had just arrived, getting a nod of understanding from the 3 devils. I really hate you right now, you know that, right? Naruto glared at Anko, who was wearing a wide grin as she stood in front of the genin that had passed the first exam. 120 genin had passed the first exam, meaning there were exactly 40 teams left, including all 5 rookie teams, Yuuto's team, Haku's team, and Gaara's team. I know, but you'll feel much better after getting into the forest. Anko grinned as the other passing teams all stared at the location for the second part of the exam, Training Ground 44, the Forest of Death. Well, at least this test should be easy, Rias said, trying to reassure Naruto, as Anko explained the rules for the next exam. Naruto sighed as he glanced at the forest. Unlike the people around him, he wasn't scared of the forest. Hell, he had spent weeks at a time living in the forest when he was younger. Hell, his team could easily reach the tower in the center in a matter of hours. No, Naruto was annoyed because Anko had invited Selzen to watch the exams, and he had brought Serafal, both of who were holding signs supporting Naruto and Rias. Sai, let's just get through this fast and get to the tower. I need to think of a new prank for Selzen and Anko. The 2 mentioned devils froze as a shiver ran up their spines. Alright, so where to first? Naruto asked as he followed Rias and Akino through the forest. While his tracking abilities sucked, Akino's were dead on, so they had agreed to leave finding a scroll and team to her. Well, there's a team with a heaven scroll 10 meters to our right and another team, this one with an earth scroll to our left, about 30 meters if my senses are right, Akino said as they stopped on a branch. The exam was rather simple in Naruto's opinion. There were 120 genin, meaning there were 40 teams left. Each team was given one of 3 scrolls, a heaven, earth, or hell scroll. In order to pass, you needed to get a set of all 3 scrolls and make it to the tower in the center of the forest within 5 days. Or we could just head to the tower. Naruto and Akino looked at Rias, who unsealed both a heaven and earth scroll. Where did you get those? Naruto asked with a smirk as Rias handed him the scrolls. Well, as you've reminded us during the first exam, we're shinobi, and shinobi play by their own rules. While we were waiting for Anko to start the exam, I had my familiar take these from 2 teams, one from AIM and a from Suna, she said before 2 very loud and powerful explosions shook the forest. You've been learning to make paper bombs from Tenten, haven't you? Rias stuck out her tongue in response, getting a sigh from Naruto. While he did like Tenten, he hated her paper bombs, which were more powerful than standard paper booms sold in shinobi stores, and Tenten was all too happy to use them on her favorite target, Issei, whom she had caught peeping at the bathhouses. Sai, let's just get to the tower. I like this forest, but not with this many people inside of it. Nodding in agreement, Rias summoned a transportation circle which took them straight to the tower, where they would have to wait for 5 whole days. Naruto wore a small smirk as he stood along with the other genin that had passed the second stage of the Chunin exam. It had been a long and boring 5 days, but the second stage of the exam had finally ended. Well, it looks like the best teams made it, Naruto thought as he glanced at the other team. Out of the 40 teams that had passed, the number had been drastically cut. Surprisingly, Teams 7, 8, and 10 had passed, along with Team 9 and Kabuto's team, which made 6 teams from Konoha, as well as Yuuto's team, Haku's team, Gaara's team, and the Sound team, leaving 10 teams. This should be fun. As the old man stood in front of the gathered genin to explain the purpose behind the exams, Naruto tuned him out and began looking at everyone who had gathered to watch whatever was going to happen next. Aside from all of the jonin who were standing behind the old man, both Selzen and Serafal, along with the rest of Rias's Peerage, were standing on the catwalk. Michael, Gabriel, and one of Michael's brave saints, a girl named Irina, were standing next to Mayane, while Azazel stood between 2 other fallen angels Naruto had met, Barakil, who was Akino's dad, and the fallen angel that had killed Issei under the orders of a fallen named Kokabil, Rainier, who was glaring at Issei, who was ogling her. Well, it looks like everyone's here to watch the prelims, Naruto muttered to Rias and Akino, both of whom were glancing up at the onlookers. Yeah, I just hope they don't embarrass us, Akino said, looking at her dad, while Rias glared at Rainier and Irina. I still can't believe my brother talked you into marry those 2 as well, Rias said. She was still mad that Rainier had tried to kill her Peerage, though she was saved before Rias could kill her. During the meeting between Naruto and the leaders of the 3 fractions, Azazel had suggested that, in order to maintain a balance of power, Naruto should also marry a girl from the other fractions as well. Agreeing to the idea, Michael had summoned Irina, Issei's childhood friend, while Azazel had summoned Rainier, as a way for her to apologize for her actions in the past. Don't worry about that right now. It doesn't become official until I win the rating games, Naruto said, placing a comforting hand on Rias's shoulder. Now I think we should clear the field so they can start the first match. Naruto motioned to the monitor that had appeared during their talk, showing that the first two fighters for the prelim were Sasuke and a boy named Yoroi, a member of Kabuto's team. As they followed the rest of the Chunin hopefuls towards the observation deck, Naruto noticed that two people had left the arena, meaning they had given up. The first was Kabuto, which confirmed Naruto's suspicion that he was up to something since he could tell that he was fine. The second was Sai. Though Naruto didn't know much about him, he knew there was something up with him. So, both Kabuto and Sai are gone. I was right, I do need to keep an eye on both of them, Naruto thought as he stood between Anko and Rias, as Sasuke's match began. The first few matches were, in Naruto's opinion, boring. After Sasuke had beaten Yoroi, stopping the curse mark he received from spreading in the process, Shino had beaten one of the sound genin, Zaku, who blew his arms off. After that, Kankuro beat Misumi, Kabuto's second teammate, followed by a pathetic match between Ino and Sakura, which ended in a draw. Well, that was pathetic, Akino said as the two kunoichi were carried of the arena by their sensei while the board flashed through names for the next round. Though the next round should be interesting, Naruto looked up at the names and choked on air. Well, it looks like I'm up, Akino said as she hopped over the railing and landed while her opponent, Hinata, walked down, glaring at Akino and Rias, who was leaning on Naruto's shoulder. Akino, don't hurt her too bad, Naruto called down, praying that Akino wouldn't go all sadistic BDSM. Though she was really hot when she was, he didn't need the headache he would get from the Hyuga Council because Hinata was turned into Akino's plaything. Don't worry, Naruto, I won't hurt her too much, Akino giggled, turning to face Hinata with a small smirk, sending a shiver down Naruto's spine. I have a bad feeling about this, Naruto muttered as the proctor, Hate Gecko, started the match. Akino smirked at the Hyuga heiress as the proctor started the match before moving out of the way. So you're Hinata, the one that's been stalking Naruto. Hinata blushed at that, causing Akino to chuckle at her reaction. I won't forgive you for taking Naruto from me. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that, wondering what she meant. So you do have a crush on him, that's so sweet. Akino chuckled as a magic circle appeared under her before rising up, causing her outfit to change into that of a traditional Miko, with a white haori and red hakama. Well, I hate to break it to you, but he's never going to be yours, Akino taunted. With a small snarl, Hinata rushed at Akino, who dodged the enraged Hyuga heiress with ease. Did I miss something? Naruto asked as he watched the fight, getting a sweat drop from everyone around him, especially those in his graduating class. That Hyuga girl has a crush on you, Naruto, Rias said, getting a surprised look from Naruto. Well, that would explain why Hayashi came to me proposing a clan alliance in the form of marriage. Rias blinked at that, since this was the first time she had heard about it. When did this happen, Gaki? Anko asked, since this was the first time she had heard about it as well. About a week after that mission to Wave, Naruto said, shrugging. I was headed to get some ramen when Hayashi and the Hyuga elders approached me, offering a clan alliance through a marriage contract. Down in the arena, Hinata, who was still attacking Akino, who was dodging with ease, was listening to the conversation, as was everyone else. Please don't tell me you accepted the marriage contract. Hinata leapt away from Akino, wondering what Naruto's answer was. Oh yeah, I accepted the contract. It would be stupid not to. Hinata's heart fluttered at that. Naruto accepted a marriage contract with her. Hinata will be the Hyuga representative in the contract while Issei will be representing the Uzumaki clan. At those words, the Hinata's whole world shattered around her. Wow, that's a tough break, Akino said with a pitying look at Hinata, who sank to her knees at that point, while Issei gained a megawatt smile. Proctor, I think you might want to call the match, Akino said, looking at Hinata, who was pale white, while Kurama, Isabu, and Shikaku, all four of whom appeared during Sakura and Ino's match, were laughing their tails off. Since Hinata is unable to continue, the match goes to Akino Uzumaki, Hate said, getting a cheer from the rest of Rias's Peerage, and Bearkeel, who was causing Akino to blush as she moved up to stand with her team. You know, that was a cruel way to help Akino win the match, Ino said as she and Sakura, both of whom had woken up during the match, tried to intimidate Naruto. I wasn't trying to help Akino win, she wouldn't have needed my help anyways, Naruto said, confused as to why they were getting mad. I was just explaining why the Hyuga elders approached me. The Yamanaka and Haruno elders did the same thing for you too. Both Ino and Sakura shut up at that, their eyes growing wide in horror. And what did you tell them? Sakura asked in horror, a sinking feeling she knew what was coming. I accepted. Both of you will be representing your clans while Issei will be representing the Uzumaki clan, Naruto said with a small smile, causing the two to fall to their knees in horror while Issei smirked. His dream of a harem was becoming a reality. So you used my pawn as a bargaining chip. When were you going to tell me? Rias asked from behind Naruto, causing him to flinch and turn to face Rias, who was wearing a sweat smile that sent a chill down his spine. Well, since your Peerage are technically members of the Uzumaki clan, I was planning to tell you after the ratting game, Naruto said, vanishing and reappearing behind Asia, knowing Rias wouldn't hurt the ex-nun. Letting out a sigh, Rias and everyone else turned to the board, as it flashed through names, before a smirk came to her face, seeing as she would be facing off against the Kiri, Yuuto's teammate. Finally, it's my turn, Kiri yelled as she hopped over the railing, landing in front of Rias, who used a magic circle to appear on the field. Alright, let the sixth match begin, Hate said before moving out of the way as Kiri began weaving hand signs. So, do you think Kiri will be alright? Naruto asked as him and the rest of Rias's Peerage moved over to stand with his team, while the rest of his Peerage moved over as well. Why do you think Kiri will lose? Yuuto's other teammate asked curiously. Because she's fighting Rias, who is the little sister of the Akai Chishio no Habanero, Kushina Uzumaki, Mei said as she appeared next to Naruto, getting a shocked look from everyone. Are you serious? Asked Tenten as the rest of the rookies from Konoha moved to stand next to the group. Yes, seeing as Naruto's her son, and me and Amiri are cousins of hers, Mei said with a smirk as Rias began firing blasts of destruction at Kiri, who was dodging like crazy. You know she's going to kill you later, don't you? Naruto let out a low groan at Akino's words. He knew he should have asked Rias about it, but those annoying clan councils wouldn't leave him alone until he agreed to them. Sigh, I know, Naruto sighed as Hate called the match in Rias's favor, seeing as Kiri forfeited when one of the blasts of destruction missed her by inches. Don't worry, Naruto. Naruto froze as Rias appeared in a magic circle behind him with a sweet smile on her face. I'm not going to hurt you, but you and Issei will be punished. Wait, why am I being punished? Issei asked in confusion. He didn't see a reason for being punished for something he didn't even know about. Because I know you've been peeping whenever I use the hot springs at the house. Issei froze as Naruto turned to face him, his eyes glowing red. Is that true, Issei? Shaking in fear, Issei screamed in terror as he ran from the tower, getting laughter from everyone. Shaking his head, and muttering about getting Issei later, Naruto turned to watch the next matchup, which was between Lee and Gaara. Man, when is it going to be my turn? Naruto groaned out, leaning on the railing. After Issei had run out of the tower, Gaara and Lee had their match, which ended in Gaara's victory. Then it was Haku versus Niji, with Haku winning. After that Temari fought Tenten and won, before Guren beat Shikamaru, and Yuuto beat Dosu, the sound genin. Looks like now, Rias said pointing to the screen, showing Naruto versus Kiba. Alright, looks like we got an easy one, right Akamaru, Kiba said as he jumped over the railing, getting a bark from his dog. Finally, it's my turn to shine. Naruto hopped over the railing and landed across from Kiba, who was wearing a superior smirk on his face. Sorry dog breath, but I'm going to end this quickly, Naruto smirked. Ha, don't make me laugh, in case you forgot, you were the worst student in the academy, Kiba mocked, getting a bored look from Naruto. That's because I was holding back in the academy, Naruto smirked at the disbelieving look on Kiba's face. Ha, yeah right, and I'm the Hokage, Kiba mocked, getting a bored look from Naruto, who simply cocked his head to the side. Kiba, the day you become Hokage, is the day I become king of the world, Naruto said before thinking, Kiba could actually become Hokage when he ruled this dimension. You know, on second thought, the day you become Hokage is the day Issei stops being a pervert, Naruto nodded. That sounded more probable scenario. That does it, you're going down, Naruto. I'll finish this in one shot. With that, Kiba charged at Naruto, preparing to punch him. As Kiba closed in, Naruto smirked before dodging to the side and hitting Kiba in the chest with a palm thrust with enough force to destroy the back of his jacket, before Kiba was sent flying back into a wall, falling to the ground out cold. For a few minutes the entire stadium was silent as Hate moved over to check on Kiba. Everyone, especially those of his graduating class, was shocked at how strong Naruto was, being able to beat Kiba with one blow. The winner of this match is Naruto Uzumaki, Hate said as Naruto moved back up to stand with his team, getting a round of applause from his and Rias's Peerage. After Naruto's swift defeat of Kiba, the rest of the matches flew by rather quickly, with Chojuro beating Choji and surprisingly the last sound genin, Kin beating Omoi, who was worried about being paired up against Yuuto, or one of the other. Finally, it's over. Now we can get to the real fun, Naruto smirked as he stood in a line with the rest of the finalists, minus Sasuke, who was taken to the infirmary after his match. I don't think we'll be going straight into the real fun yet, Naruto, Rias said as the old man explained about them getting a month of in order to train while they worked on contacting the leaders and dignitaries of other villages and nations. Now, in order to decide the lineup for the final tournament, we will have you all draw numbers. This will give you an idea on who you will be facing in a month's time, the old man said as Anko walked around with a box, in which everyone drew a number. Now you will all tell us the number you drew, which will tell you who you are facing in the finals. I have number 1, Shino said holding up his number as Ibiki wrote it down. Number 10, Kankuro said wondering who he would face. I have number 2, Akino said with a small smile sending a shiver down Shino's spine. Number 11, Rias smirked, looking down the line to see who she would fight. 6, Gaara held up his number with a bored look on his face. My number is 8, Haku said with a smile. 3, Temari showed of her number. Looks like I get makeup boy, Guren said holding up the number 9, causing Kankuro to groan. Seems I got Temari, Yuuto smirked, which was mirrored by Temari. Number 12, Naruto gulped as he glanced at Rias, who seemed just as surprised by the pairing. I'm number 5, Chojuro said, glancing at Gaara with a shudder. I have number 7, Kin shuddered at the gleam that appeared in Haku's eyes. And that leaves Sasuke with number 13, the old Hokage said with a nod as Ibiki showed everyone the lineup. The first match was Shino vs Akino, followed by Temari vs Yuuto. Chojuro and Gaara would make the third match, followed by Kin and Haku, who would make up the fourth match. Guren and Kankuro would make up the fifth match before Naruto and Rias would battle it out in the sixth match, with Sasuke fighting the winner of the sixth match. Now that you all know who you'll be facing in the final, you can use this time to prepare, so good luck, train hard, and we will see you all in 1 month. With that, everyone left the tower in order to prepare for the finals. Man, this is not going to end well, Naruto muttered as he followed Rias and Akino from the tower, wondering what would happen over the course of the next month. Naruto growled in frustration as he walked through the village, more specifically the hot springs, looking for his new sensei. After the preliminaries were over, everyone had gone straight to training. Rias had gone back to the underworld in order to learn from her mom, while Anko had dragged Akino for some training. When Naruto had asked the old Hokage about training, he had told him someone very powerful would be waiting at the hot springs for him. Man, where the hell is this guy? Naruto growled out as he wandered around the woman's side of the spring, before stopping as a familiar sound reached his ears, the sound of 2 perverts giggling. Following the sounds of the giggling, Naruto found 2 people peeking into the woman's side of the hot spring. The first was Issei, whom Naruto had been looking for since the preliminaries. The second was someone he had seen in the village a few times before and whom Naruto needed to kick in the nuts for multiple reasons, Jiraiya of the Sannin. Well, look at what we have here. 2 perverts ripe for the beating. Both perverts froze as a deadly and malicious aura overtook them. Slowly turning around, the 2 froze at the sight of Naruto, his eyes glowing a deep red, cracking his knuckles in a way that spelled trouble for the 2. So tell me, why shouldn't I kill the 2 of you for peeking in on my girls? Naruto asked, since he could hear Temari, Rainer, Mei, Gabriel, Irina, Seraphal, Haku and Guren all on the other side of the fence. Before the 2 paling perverts could say anything, a summoning circle appeared underneath Naruto, teleporting him away. With Naruto gone, the 2 perverts let out a sigh of relief before an even darker and malicious aura overtook the 2, slowly turning the 2 came face to face with the source of the feeling, all of Naruto's girls. Fu let out a tired sigh as she sat at the base of the tree that Takigakure was built under. She was trying to ignore all the hateful glares the villagers were sending her, seeing as she was the Jinchuriki for the Nanabai no Kabutomushi. Within her hands was a slip of paper with a strange seal on it. She had gotten it during her last mission. Apparently the seal would summon a devil to grant some kind of wish. I wonder if this thing works, Fu wondered as she stared at the seal. If it did work, her greatest wish was to leave this village, since the only person that seemed to care about her was the village leader, Shibuki. Unconsciously channeling chakra into the seal, Fu's eyes widened, along with that of those glaring at her, as the seal in her hand flew off the page and expanded before a blonde teen about her age appeared with a bored look on his face. Yo, name's Naruto Uzumaki. I take it you're the one who summoned me? Naruto asked as he stared at a rather attractive girl with tan skin, shoulder-length green hair and orange eyes. It really works, Fu whispered as the villagers began gathering around, muttering, which Naruto ignored. Are you really a devil? Naruto smirked at her question as he released his wings. Sure am, so tell me, what can I do for you? He glanced around before a scowl crossed his face. He could hear the villagers muttering about demon horrors summoning monsters. Don't tell me, let me guess, you want to leave this village, get away from all of the idiots around us, am I right? How did you know? She asked in amazement, getting a chuckle from him. Because I'm just awesome like that, he chuckled at the deadpan look she was giving him. Alright, the truth is, I understand what you're going through right now, being a Jinchuriki and having the village hate you for something out of your control. Her eyes widened in shock, wondering how he knew that. I know what it's like, seeing as I was the Jinchuriki for Kyuubi. But if you want to come with me, I can stop all the hateful looks. He held out his hand for her to take. For a few seconds Fu stared at the outstretched hand, before hesitantly taking it, getting a smile from Naruto. Alright then, let's get out of here. He pulled her to her feet and summoned a transport circle, before glancing at the villagers around them, all of the shinobi preparing to stop them. With a smirk, Naruto pointed his finger towards a far wall surrounding the village before firing a blast of destruction, which caused a large explosion. At the explosion, Naruto called up another summoning circle and teleported himself and Fu back to his home. I see you found another one, Kara said, looking up from the book she was reading as Naruto appeared out of a summoning circle with a green-haired girl. So, who does she hold? The Nanabai no Kabutomushi. Kara smirked at that. Out of all her siblings, Nanabai, or Chomei, was one of the few she could stand, aside from Isabu. So what are you going to make her? Fu looked at the older woman in confusion as Naruto sat on the sofa across from the woman, motioning for her to do the same. I don't know, I still have 4 pawns, a knight, and a bishop as evil pieces, and from my saint deck the only ones I've used are the queen, ace and 2, so I basically have a full set, Naruto said, setting out his remaining evil pieces and saint cards. What are you two talking about? Fu asked, glancing at the items Naruto placed on the table between them. Well, you see, I promised Kira here that I would free all of the Biju from their host, which would kill the host. Fu's eyes widened and she tensed up, preparing to run if she needed to. She didn't want to die yet. Since I don't really want you to die after I release Chome from you, I'm trying to figure out how I should revive you, as a devil or an angel. At Fu's curious look, Naruto began the long explanation about devils, angels, and fallen, and about the evil pieces and the brave saints. Well, if you don't mind, could I be a knight? Naruto and Kira blinked at that. I have super strength from Chome, but a knight sounds like fun, and I've always wanted to learn kenjutsu. That does sound like a good idea, and I can probably convince Amuri to train you as well. Naruto picked up the knight piece and held it in his hand. The knight gives the person enhanced speed, and with your monstrous strength from Chome that would make you a balanced fighter, which will really help in the upcoming ratting game. Nodding his head, Naruto packed up the remaining pieces, before leading Fu down to the ceiling room, where he would release Chome before reviving Fu as his second knight. So, you want me to teach you and this new girl some kenjutsu? It was din time and Naruto was sitting at the table with his Peerage, Rias's Peerage, and the other members of his family, minus Fu and Chome, both of whom were resting from the extraction and revival. Yeah, and not just you, I'd like for Mei and Zabuza to train me as well. The two pawns looked at him, waiting for his reasoning. Look, I know you're probably training your own genin for the exam, but I also need your help in training for the exam. Why not ask someone from Konoha? Zabuza asked, not that he was complaining. Hell, the kid was technically asking members of a rival village to help train him. It was actually pretty funny. I was going to ask Kakashi, but he's busy training Sasuke, even if he knows the kid doesn't have a chance of winning, and I'm not going to take any form of training from the old pervert Jiraiya, not after he left me in this village despite being my godfather. His spy network be damned, it's no excuse for leaving me all alone. All of the older members at the table nodded. He was right. Very well, Naruto, I suppose we can't really refuse a request from our king, they said, getting a chuckle from everyone at the table. So, what exactly do you want to learn? At her question, Naruto smirked, getting a curious look from the older shinobi. Sai, how did I end up being a pack mule again? Naruto asked out loud as he followed Rias down the main street of Tanzaku Town, a rather popular gambling town. This is your punishment for using Issei as a bargaining chip without asking me. She smiled over her shoulder at him, and the 23 clones he had following him, each one carrying a bag full to the brim with scrolls, which he had sealed all of Rias's manga collections into, each series sealed into a separate scroll. While it wasn't widely known, Rias loved manga, seeing as she had a complete collection of ever-known manga back as Ko Academy, which is where Naruto had gotten the bags from. After about a week of training, Rias had returned in order to punish Naruto for using Issei as a clan sacrifice, as he put it. She had dragged him to Ko Academy, where she had him seal all of her manga into scrolls, each scroll containing its own series. Once all of her manga were sealed, she had him take her to Tanzaku Town, where she would be using his devil's luck to bankrupt a number of casinos before he bought her an expensive dinner. Sigh, I know, but wouldn't it be easier if we sealed up all the bags into a scroll? It would draw less attention, he pointed out, seeing as everyone around them was watching the strange display with a number of different expressions, the main one being amusement. Maybe, but again, this is your punishment. While her smile appeared to be one of pure innocence, Naruto felt a shiver run down his spine. With another sigh, Naruto and his clones all nodded in understanding, before following her into the nearest casino. Half an hour later, the pair of redheads were leaving the 5th casino they had been to, and bankrupt, which caused every other casino around to put up signs banning both of them. Well, that was fun, Naruto smiled as they walked down the street, his arm resting comfortably between Rias's. After clear out the first casino, Rias had allowed him to seal away all the bags, happy that he had followed her orders so obediently. You're right, but we should probably stop somewhere and get some food. I am getting kind of hungry, Rias said, causing them to stop in front of a small bar. Well, I know it's not a fancy restaurant, but how about we eat here? Glancing at the place, Rias nodded in agreement before following Naruto inside, only to stop as the two of them saw someone in the corner that they had actually been looking for. I don't believe it. To think we'd find her in a place like this, Naruto muttered. Sitting in a corner both of the bar was none other than Tsunade Senju, the last member of the Senju clan and the granddaughter of Mito Uzumaki. Sitting across from her was her student Shizen. Well, shall we go say hello? Nodding in agreement, the two devils walked over to the older member of the Uzumaki clan, getting Shizen's attention almost immediately. Hello, Tsunade. It's nice to finally meet you, Naruto said, stopping at their table, causing the older woman to look at them. Alright, Naruto. Again, Naruto stood panting in the center of Training Ground 38, which was more or less large open field with trees lining the edge. Standing around him were all of his peerage. His queen, Kira, was standing there giving orders to the others, directing them as they fought Naruto. his knights, Yuri and Fu were standing on either side of him. Fu was panting as hard as he was and Aim looked a little winded. His rooks, Anko and Killer Bee, were smirking at him. Bee had a cut on his cheek but otherwise they just appeared to be winded. Out of all of his pawns, Mei, Yuuto, Zabuza, and Gurin, only Yuuto and Gurin seemed tired, since they were breathing hard as well. His two bishops, Haku and Tsunade, were standing a little behind the others, though Haku was panting as hard as the other genin members of the peerage. After meeting Tsunade in the bar with Rias, nature had managed to beat some sense into her, as well as beat her in a bet, which earned him the first Hokage's necklace, as well as another bishop. Once they had returned to the village with Tsunade and Shizen in tow, they two king devils had jumped back into training, which led to Naruto's current situation. After a week of training under each of the older members of his peerage, Aim teaching him lightning release, Mei teaching him fire release, Zabuza teaching him water release, and Bee helping him develop his own sword style based off of Bee's 7 sword style, Naruto using only 4 blades, and Tsunade teaching him her super strength, Kara had decided to test Naruto by having him face off against his entire peerage. So, how is he doing? Up to the side of the fight, Selzen was watching the training session along with the Hokage, the Raikage, Michael, Azazel, and Naruto's brave saints, his Queen of Hearts, Gabriel, his Ace of Hearts, Gaara, his 2 of Hearts, Temari, his 3 of Hearts, Shizen, his 4 of Hearts, Hanabi Hyuga, his 5 of Hearts, Kin and his 6 of Hearts, Taiyuya Uzumaki. He seems to be doing well, he's made a lot of progress in so little time it's scary in a way, Sarutobi said as he watched Naruto dodge a slash from Zabuza before being kicked away by Yuri, before he charged at them only to be intercepted by Bee. Man, if he's able to take on 3 Jinchuriki, 2 Kage, and 2 members of the 7 swords as well as the other genin, you got to wonder if he actually needs them to fight this Phoenix guy, Taiyuya said from her spot next to Kin. 3 days after returning to the village with Tsunade, whom Sarutobi declared as the new Hokage almost immediately after she told him she was part of Naruto's peerage, Naruto had been training in the woods when he came across the scene of Taiyuya fighting the other members of the Sound Four, who declared themselves to be Orochimaru's elite bodyguards, while trying to protect Kin, whom Orochimaru was planning to use as a sacrifice. Without thinking about it, Naruto leapt headlong into the fray, killing 2 of the members while Taiyuya killed the last one. Once they were out of harm's way, Kin, explaining everything to Naruto, offered them protection by making them members of his brave saints. Naruto really is strong, it's no wonder father made this contract with him despite the contract my sister has with the pervert, Hanabi said as she watched the fight in awe. The day after they had returned with Tsunade, Hayashi had used one of the summoning circles to summon Naruto. When asked why, Hayashi told him of the plan that the Hyuga elders were cooking up, which he had learned from a branch member, to make Hanabi a pawn for the clan, since Hinata was out of the way thanks to the marriage contract with Issei. Once Hayashi had informed Naruto of this, he asked for him to protect his daughter, so with his kitsune-like grin on his face, Naruto made her a member of his brave saints, which would no doubt tick of the Hyuga elders. Once the Hyuga elders found out Hanabi was under Naruto's protection, they began to protest, which ended quickly when Naruto killed one with a blast of destruction, ending all their protest in fear of him killing them. Yes, he is quite powerful, though I wonder how he would do once he awakens to his full powers. The spectators turned to see a woman standing on a tree branch, watching the fight with interest. The woman appeared to be a girl of about 12, with long black hair that fell down to her hips and gray eyes. She was wearing a black gothic Lolita dress and a blank expression on her face, though those with experience could see she was very curious in Naruto. May I ask what you are doing here, Office? Azazel asked the Ouroboros dragon, who glanced at him before glancing back at Naruto. You may, but that doesn't mean I'll answer. A small smirk appeared on her face before she turned and vanished without a trace. Man, I really hope the kid knows what he's doing by allying himself with Office, Azazel said, getting a nod from Selzen and Michael. While they didn't know how, or when, Naruto had somehow become friends with the Ouroboros dragon, Office, which shocked them all quite a bit. Naruto wore a smirk on his face as he stood with the rest of the finalists for this year's Chunin selection exam. Up in the Kage box sat Tsunade, Mei, the Kazekage, Selzen, Azazel, and Michael. Welcome everyone to this year's Chunin exam finals, Tsunade said, standing up and addressing the crowd, getting cheers from the crowd. Now before we begin the finals, we have a special show for all of you to watch. The crowd fell silent at this, wondering what this show was. As I'm sure you've all heard rumors over the past year, about people summoning devils to grant them wishes, I am telling you today that these rumors are true, and to prove it, the king of the underworld and leader of the devil race has agreed to allow us all to view a duel between devils. At this, Selzen stepped forward. Thank you, Hokage, honored guests. Today you will see what we devils call a rating game, a battle between high-class devils and their servants or followers. The murmurs began filling the crowd as people began talking, wondering about this ratings game. I shall now turn it over to the commentator for this rating game. At his words, Graphia appeared in a summoning circle on the field, followed by Riser and his peerage. This rating game will be between Riser Phoenix of the House of Phoenix and Naruto Uzumaki of the House of Uzumaki. 2 of the 72 pillars that create the devil hierarchy. The prize for winning will be the hand of Rias Gremory of the Gremory House. The loser will also surrender his peerage to the winner. The crowd simply stared in shock, mainly the civilians of Konoha who were all staring at Naruto. The location for this game, Graphia waved her hand and a magic bubble appeared in above the field, high enough for everyone to see, before showing a replication of Konoha, shocking everyone. Konoha, the village of the hidden leaf, are both players ready? Riser gave an arrogant smirk and nodded his head. Yeah, just let me get the rest of my peerage down here. A large summoning circle appeared and everyone's eyes widened at the sight of the people who appeared. All of the people who knew of them had their mouths hanging open. On the field behind Naruto stood 2 Kage-level shinobi, Tsunade and Mei, 2 members of the 7 Swords of the Mist, Zabuza and Amuri, 2 Jonin, B and Anko, and a number of the finalists for the exam, Yuuto, Haku, Gurin and 2 people who weren't in the final, Kara and Fu. Very well, if both contestants are ready, let the game commence. 2 large summoning circles appeared underneath both peerages before they all vanished. Standing on top of the wall over the main gate to Konoha, Naruto and his peerage appeared looking out over the massive village. Alright everyone, our target's main base is the Hokage's tower, meaning we have the advantage. Now let's get out there and show them how shinobi do things. Waving his hand in a dismissive gesture, the rest of his peerage blurred into motion, all headed for their main target, Riser Phoenix. With a smirk of his own, Naruto leapt of the wall as well. The raiding game had officially begun. Well now, this should be interesting. As excited whispers filled the Chunin exam stadium, the genin that had lost in the preliminaries and their senseis all turned to look at Kakashi as they sat together, discussing who they thought would win the exam until this raiding game was sprung on them. What do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked, looking back at her jonin, curiosity written on her face. Well, this fight is a little unfair. All of the genin were now paying attention, and blinking in confusion. This raiding game is set in Naruto's favor, with it being in Konoha, meaning that this Riser person believes he can win. However, look at all the people in Naruto's group. You have Lady Tsunade and Lady Mei, both of whom are Kages. After that you have Zabuza Momochi and Amuri Ringo. Both are members of the 7 Swords of the Mist and both excel at the silent killing technique of Kiri. You also have Anko, who is Konoha's second in command for the Tianai department, along with the ex-student of Orochimaru's. Then there's Killer B, from Kumo, who's a master of his own unique sword style, the 7 Sword style, as well as a master of Taijutsu and the younger brother of the Raikage. You also have Yuuto, Haku and Gurin, all of whom are in the exam as well, plus the 2 unknown members of his group. Now aside from the 3 genin and the 2 unknowns, all of the people mentioned have fought and survived war, which gives them a lot of battle experience. And while this Riser person may have won a number of these games from what I've been able to gather, unless he has members that have fought in a war, he's basically giving the fight to Naruto. Wow, you really are good. Everyone turned to see Rasweiss and the rest of Rias's peerage leading a man with red hair like Naruto's and Rias's, a woman with short brown hair who looked like an older version of Rias, and a boy with red hair. From what Anko says about you, I figured you were just a lazy pervert, Ross said with a small smile, getting a chuckle from Kakashi and the other jonin. Well, you can't believe everything you hear. Kakashi gave them all an eye smile. So mind introducing us all to the 3 behind you, since I'm sure we all know you and the rest of Rias's group. Right, where are my manners? Allow me to introduce you all. This is Zeoticus Gremory. The man gave a small friendly nod. His wife, Venelana Gremory, the woman gave a small curtsy. And their grandson, Milikas Gremory, they are Rias's parents and nephew. Everyone stared at the 3 wide eyes. They were Naruto's family. It's nice to meet you all. I hope we're not intruding. We were invited by Rias to watch the raiding game and told that Naruto had some friend we could sit with, Zeoticus said, getting a nod from Kakashi. Well, it's nice to meet you, sir. My name is Kakashi Hataki. I'm the leader of Team 7. Next to me are Asuma and Kurinai, the leaders of Teams 8 and 10, and in the row below us are Sakura Haruno, Ino Yamanaka, Choji Akimichi, Shikamaru Nara, Hanada Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, Niji Hyuga, and Tenten. All of them, minus Tenten and Niji, are from Naruto's graduating class. Nodding their heads in greeting, the group all took a seat in front of the genin, Issei taking a seat between Sakura and Ino, much to their annoyance. Well now, it looks like the fun's about to begin, Zeoticus said as the magical screen focused in on the first pair of combatants. Well, it looks like I found the first form of resistance, Zabuza said as he looked at the 3 girls that had appeared in front of him. He had been walking around the hot springs area when they jumped out, surrounding him in a triangle formation. I am Cirrus, a knight for Lord Phoenix, said a girl with black hair wielding a Zweihander. She was wearing a white top, red shorts and armored knee-high boots and gloves. We are Enai and Lee, pawns of Lord Phoenix, the 2 girls said in unison. Both girls were wearing a revealing schoolgirl uniform with cat ears on their head, and both had different color hair, one being red and the other being blue. They also had a pair of fighting gloves, each matching the color of their hair. Well then, let's get started, shall we? And try to make this interesting, if you can. Zabuza stabbed his Kubikuribocho into the ground next to him. My name is Zabuza Momochi. I'm a pawn of Naruto Uzumaki's, but I'm better known as the Demon of the Mist. The three girls raised a curious eyebrow at his name. Allow me to show you why I earned the nickname Demon of the Bloody Mist. Faster than the three could keep up with, Zabuza flashed through hand seals. Water style. Hidden mist jutsu. The mist that was rising from the hot springs around them began to grow thicker, covering the area from view. There are 8 points on the human body: throat, spinal, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian, kidney, heart. All are instant kill points. Where should I strike first? The three girls tensed as they glanced around, trying to see through the mist. Well, I guess it doesn't matter where I aim first, since I'm not allowed to kill you. With that said, everything fell silent. My, what an interesting technique, Zyataka said, leaning forward in his seat, hoping to see through the mist, wondering what was happening. 2 pawns and 1 knight from Riser Phoenix have been retired from the game. The 3 Gremories blinked as the mist cleared to show Zabuza standing in the same spot he had been before the mist appeared before he began walking away. What in the world just happened? Venilana asked, curious as to what had happened. The mist had appeared then vanished less than a minute later as the defeated pieces were called, and it didn't look like Zabuza had so much as moved. The hidden mist jutsu. Everyone turned to face Kakashi for an explanation. What Kiri is famous for, the jutsu uses the water in the area to create a mist that weakens visibility and smell. When mixed with the silent killing style, it's an almost unstoppable jutsu. Sakura shuddered, remembering when Zabuza used that on Team 7 on their first C-ranked mission. I see, you shinobi truly are impressive, Zyataka said, turning back to watch the next matchup. Guren and Haku were both clutching each other, shaking like a leaf. Around them were 4 of Riser's pieces, though that's not why they were shaking. No, they were shaking in fear of Mei Terumi, who had a menacing aura surrounding her. What did you just call me? Mei asked in a sickeningly sweet voice as she turned to face Xuelan, who introduced herself as one of Riser's rooks. Xuelan was wearing a revealing Chinese-style dress, and wearing a smug look on her face, not noticing the aura of death around Mei, though the other 4 members of Riser's Peerage had, and were slowly backing away. Xuelan, I don't think you should repeat yourself, said Burent, one of Riser's pawns who was wearing a maid uniform. Yeah, this woman looks ready to kill. Marion, another of Riser's pawns, slowly backed up, her whole body shaking in fear. Why, there's no way this old lady can beat the 4 of us, especially when we have Revel on our side, Xuelan said, missing the evil gleam in Mei's eyes. Unlike you, Xuelan, I'm not an idiot, Revel poking her head out from behind Haku and Guren. Revel was wearing a pink dress and trying to stay out of the way. Before anything else could be said, Xuelan coughed up blood as fist impacted her stomach before she was sent flying into a wall. When the dust settled, it showed Xuelan out cold, blood dripping from her mouth before she vanished in a flash of light. One of Riser's rooks has been retired. They all heard Graphia's voice echo over the village as Mei turned to face the cowering group of girls. Does anyone else want to call me old? All of them began shaking their heads furiously, all of them wisely keeping their mouths shut. Alright then, I'm off to find Naruto. Have fun, she said with a smile and calm air around her before she literally skipped away in search of Naruto. That woman is scary, Revel said in a shaky tone from behind Naruto's 2 pawns. What's even scarier is that she's only a pawn, Burnett said next to Revel. That's nothing. Riser's remaining pawns and Bishop looked at Haku, who was still shaking like a leaf. Out of the 7 adults in Naruto's peerage, she's considered the weakest. The 3 stared at Haku as if she was crazy before turning back to look at Mei, who was now humming a happy tune, seeing as she had spotted Naruto. Man, that woman is scary, Kiba said, shaking in his seat along with the other everyone else, minus Kurenai and Venilana, who were smirking at what they had just seen. Well then, let that be a lesson to you, Kiba. Never comment on a woman's age, or else you'll die, Kurenai said, causing all of the males in the area to pale at the though. So it looks like you're my opponents, Kara and Anko, who had stopped at Anko's favorite dango stand to grab some tea and dangos, glanced up at the person that had spoken to them. I am Yubelina, the queen of Riser Phoenix. I am also known as the Bomb Queen. She gained a tick mark on her forehead as the 2 members of Naruto's peerage returned to their tea and dangos. Hey, are you 2 even listening to me? We heard you, but frankly, we don't care. Now would you please shut up and leave? We're trying to relax here, Anko said, taking a bit of her dango. I'll teach you to ignore me, Yubelina waved her hand, causing Anko's dangos to explode. She shouldn't have done that. Everyone turned to face the 3 Jonin, all of whom were pale white at that moment, as were every other shinobi of Chunin rank and above. Even Sarutobi was pale at what he had just seen. Why is that, Kurenai-sensei? Ino asked curiously, not knowing why all of the higher-ranked shinobi were freaking out at the sight of some dango being ruined. Because the last person to ruin Anko's dangos was a high-ranking Jonin. He's currently in the hospital on life support. Everyone paled a little at that. Of course, that's his condition now. 3 years after he knocked over a plate of Anko's dangos, a number of small craters formed as everyone's jaw hit the ground in surprise. Yubelina laughed as Anko, who was covered in dango, slowly stood up, her hair covering her eyes as she turned to face the Bomb Queen, Kara letting out a small sigh, since she would have to deal with Anko after she was finished beating on Yubelina. You just ruined my dango. Yubelina stopped laughing at that and glanced at Anko, before falling to her knees as wave after wave of killing intent hit her, suffocating her as she peered into the eye of a demon. No one ruins my dango, and gets away with it. In a blur of motion, Anko was in front of the queen, who coughed up blood as Anko planted a foot in her gut, followed up by a backhand which sent the queen crashing into a fence. As the dust settled, Anko appeared over a downed Yubelina, her fist drawn back and ready to strike. Just as her fist, which was coated in a chakra, was about to make contact, Yubelina vanished in a flash of light, allowing Anko's fist to hit the earth beneath her, which shattered as the crater formed underneath her, destroying the entire block. It looks like Lady Tsunade taught Anko how to use her super strength, Asuma said as everyone stared in awe. No, that was Kara. Everyone turned as 5 people appeared behind them, the one who spoke being Isabu, who was wearing a yellow sundress. Kara always did have monstrous strength, enough to rival my own, a woman with short blue hair said, getting a shudder from the only man of the group. Yeah, I can attest to that, Chome, the man shuddered at the memories of fighting the two. Your problem is you always tried to play the peacemaker, Gyuki, a woman with long sandy brown hair said, getting a glare from Gyuki. And your problem is that you always start the fights, Shu, the woman smirked at him before the 4 sat down, getting strange looks from everyone, minus Rias's Peerage. You know, you 3 shouldn't argue, Asia said, causing the 3 to stare at her in shock, not noticing the smirk on Isabu's face. We're sorry, we won't do it anymore, the 3 said, bowing their heads in defeat. Apparently Asia had a strange ability to cause everyone to do as she asked. The only ones immune to her charm were Naruto, Akino, and Rias. Not even Kara was immune to it. With her job done and a smile on her face, Asia turned back to watch the game, seeing as Naruto had just arrived at the Hokage's tower. Naruto had a small smirk as he stood on top of the Hokage's tower, glancing out over the village. Standing behind him was Riser, who was glaring holes into his back. Well, Riser, this was fun, but from the sounds of it you've lost, Naruto said as Graphia's voice echoed over the village again, announcing that the last member of Riser's Peerage had retired from the game, which had only started 5 minutes previously. It's not over yet, even if all of my Peerage are gone. As long as I beat you, Rias will be all mine, and I even get the bitches you that make up your Peerage. Riser smirked before he came crashing to his knees as killing intent flooded the area. You know, I was going to let you give up, since you're the only one left. Naruto glanced over his shoulder. His eyes were blood red with slits for pupils, and a black aura, the same one from the bridge, was slowly swirling around him. But with that comment, I think I'll show you what happens to those who threaten my family. Turning, Naruto's wings appeared, casting a menacing shadow over the Phoenix clan member. The shadow looked more like a demon than a devil. Riser stared in horror and undying fear as Naruto held out his hand, summoning a spear of pure light, something that was supposed to be impossible for devils since the purity of the light would kill them. Before he knew what was happening, Naruto vanished, reappearing behind Riser, who screamed in agony as his left arm was severed at the shoulder by the holy power the boy was using. With tear of pain in his eyes, Riser turned to glare at Naruto, before freezing, his eyes widening in horror at the sight of Naruto. Naruto's eyes were blank, void of emotion, as a black aura circled around him. The form of a large dragon with 3 glowing red eyes appeared behind him, before letting out a monstrous roar that everyone in the audience could feel. With slow, almost deliberate movements, Naruto began moving towards Riser, who was slowly backing away in fear, leaving a trail of blood and urine behind him as he tried to distance himself from the teen in front of him. Now you die. Naruto pointed his finger at Riser. A small black ball of energy began forming, much like a Baijidama, though at the core was a small ball of light. Before Naruto could fire it, however, he felt a pair of arms wrap around him, tears hitting his neck as the owner of the arms cried into his back. Naruto, please stop this. Naruto glanced over his shoulder before his eyes widened at the sight of Rias, tears in her eyes as she hugged him from behind. Please come back to me. At her words, Naruto's power receded, leaving Naruto to fall to his knees panting as he shook his head, trying to clear the fog that had appeared there. Rias? Naruto glanced over as Rias pulled him into a comforting hug. He was still panting from exhaustion. Don't worry, Naruto, I'm here, and I won't be going anywhere. Naruto's breathing finally began to calm down as he looked around, his eyes falling on Riser's form, his arms still missing and him shaking in fear as he stared at them. What happened? Last thing I remember was Riser insulting everyone, then it all went blank. Naruto looked around as the rest of his Peerage appeared around him, each with a worried look on their face. Don't worry, everything's alright now. You won and we can forget about everything, Rias said as Naruto's eyes began to droop. I won't let anything happen to you, Naruto, and that's a promise. And Uzumaki never go back on their words. With those words, Naruto fell into unconsciousness in Rias's arms, a soft smile on her lips as a large magic circle appeared underneath them all. The winner of this raiding game is Naruto Uzumaki of the Uzumaki house. The crowd was silent as everyone stared wide eyes at what they had just seen. Well, that certainly was different, Xiaoticus said, amazed by the amount of power the boy had. That little bit was enough to rival any one of the 4 Satans, and if he were to learn to fully control that power, he could easily match if not beat all 4 of them at once. He might even to take on Ophis with ease. Yes, it seems little Naruto has a lot of untapped potential. I still wish we could have been there for him after Kushina died though, Venelana said, a soft smile on her face as she watched her daughter follow after Zabuza, as the man carried Naruto over his shoulder towards the stands, worry written all over her face. That was so cool, Milikas said with stars in his eyes. Do you think I'll ever be that strong? Zeoticus and Venelana shared a look before chuckling. Probably. I mean, you are a member of the Gremory house after all, and the Gremory, like the Uzumaki, value family over everything, so as long as you create a peerage full of people you care about, I'm sure you'll become as strong as Naruto someday. Milikas smiled at that. He couldn't wait to finally meet his cousin. He had heard a lot about him from his mom and was eager to meet him. Well then, shall we go see if he's alright? With a nod from Rias's peerage, the group of devils, and the 4 Biju left the genin and jonin, all of them still silent after what they had seen. Well, that was certainly an interesting display, the Kazekage said as calmly as the crowd calmed itself down after watching the raiding game, though inwardly he was cursing his luck, knowing his plans were all ruined now. Agreed to think, Minato's kid had that type of power in him, the Reikage said from his seat. He had arrived just before the raiding game began. Well, he has been training like crazy for the past month, Mei smiled from her seat, having returned to the Kage's box with Tsunade after making sure Naruto would be alright. True, if we didn't force him to rest he would have trained himself into the ground. Everyone chuckled at Tsunade's words, before realizing she wasn't joking. So, Lady Hokage, do you believe Naruto will be rested enough for his match in the exams? Selzen asked, genuinely curious. Rias had been training like crazy for this, and she really wants to fight Naruto, though I think she would rather do it in the finals. Don't worry, Naruto will be ready for his match. Asia was tending to him when we left. Selzen nodded in understanding. He knew she was talking about Asia's sacred gear, Twilight Healing. Well, that's good. I'd be disappointed if we didn't get to see a match between Naruto and Rias. Tsunade and Mei nodded in agreement with that. Well now, that was rather entertaining, Gabriel said from her place in the stands. Around her were Irina, Rainer, Tayuya, Shizen and Hanabi. Though I have to wonder about that aura Naruto released at the end there. That was unnerving, Rainer said shivering. She had never felt anything like it. Hell, neither Azazel nor Kokobile came close to having that much power. What do you think it was? Honestly, I have no idea. The only ones that come close in my memory are Ophis and Great Red, but not even they felt that dark. You're close. The 5 women all jumped and turned to find Ophis sitting in an empty chair at the end of the aisle. That power was something long thought sealed away, a sacred gear known as the Dragon's Shadow. What's that? Hanabi asked, getting a small smirk from Ophis. As the name suggests, the Dragon's Shadow reveals itself in the form of a dragon's shadow in place of the user's shadow. She gained a faraway look in her eyes. It was created long ago, by an ancient being who had hoped to destroy all dragons. He created this sacred gear by taking a little power from multiple dragons, and combining them, though he lost control of the power, and died as a result. So in order to prevent that power from being used you sealed it up. Ophis nodded. Yes, this was the only time the 5 dragon kings, the 2 heavenly dragons, Great Red and myself worked together. We sealed it away. I never thought I'd see it again. Are you going to try and seal it away again? Shizen asked, getting a negative response from Ophir. No, I have spoken with Tiamat about it, and we both believe that Naruto might be the only person able to use its power without losing himself. The 6 women nodded at that before turning back to the arena as all of the competitors assembled on the field. Rias let out a long sigh as she stood next to Naruto, who was still looking a little tired from his raiding game. Naruto, are you sure you're alright? Akino asked from his other side. Yeah, I'm fine, Akino, don't worry, Naruto smiled at her, getting a nod from the fallen angel. She's just worried for you, Naruto. We all are, Rias said, getting nods of agreement from Gaara, Temari, Haku, Girin, Kin, and Yuuto. I know, and I appreciate it, but don't forget we're in the middle of an exam. Rias just smirked and shook her head at Naruto's casual air. Alright, you guys, listen up, the proctor of the exam, Genma, said, pulling out a sheet of paper. Like in real battle, you never know who your opponent's going to be, so the Hokage created a new last-minute lineup for this round. Everyone stared at the paper, memorizing the new lineup. The first match was now Naruto vs Haku, followed by Yuuto and Sasuke. Akino and Kin made up the 3rd match, followed by Gaara and Shino in the 4th match. Chojuro and Kankuro made up the 5th round, followed by Temari and Rias in the 6th match, with Girin fighting the winner of the 1st match in the 7th round. Wait, so our opponents have changed, why? Temari asked curiously. She could understand the concept of an unknown opponent in true battle. That was just how the world worked. But why was it happening here in a controlled environment? As I said, it was the Hokage's decision, Genma said in a laid-back tone, getting an annoyed twitch from everyone present. Now if everyone but the first 2 fighters please head up to the competitors both, we'll begin the first match of the Chunin exam finals. Well, it looks like things are about to begin, Anko said excitedly, having returned to sit with the rookies along with Rias's peerage. So who do you guys think will win? My money's on Naruto, but since he's still tiered you never know. Well, no offense to Naruto, but I have to say Haku, Amuri said, having joined Anko with the others. As you said, Naruto's still tired from the raiding game, even if it was way too easy. Besides, Haku was training almost as hard as Naruto. Hell, if Mei didn't force her to rest, she probably would have worked herself to death. Anko and Kakashi nodded in understanding. It would seem that all of Naruto's peerage took after him in the fact that they trained themselves into the ground. Now if only they could get Rias's peerage to do the same thing. Look, it's starting. Everyone glanced down at the arena as Genma moved out of the way, signaling the start of the match. You know, I don't plan on losing this, right? Haku smirked as she got into a ready stance. I know, that makes two of us, Naruto said, getting into his own stance, both waiting for the other to make a move. At a small twitch from Naruto, Haku sprang into action, moving at a speed most would associate with Jonin, getting right in front of Naruto and throwing a mean uppercut. Dodging back in order to avoid the punch, Naruto retaliated with a fierce number of blows, which led to them flying around the arena in a fierce taijutsu battle. Wow, is that really the dobe? Kiba asked from his seat as him and the rest of the 9 rookies stared in awe at the fight going on before them. Man, I knew the kid was good, but I didn't know he was holding back this much, Asuma said in shock, his cigarette falling out of his mouth. Just wait until they start using jutsu, Anko smirked, which grew as the two broke away from each other and began flying through hand seals. Ice style, Arctic tundra, Haki yelled as she finished her hand seals before slamming her hands on the ground. As her hands hit the ground, spears of ice began shooting up, headed towards Naruto at incredible speed. Lava style, Hell's Domain, Naruto slammed his hands into the ground, causing spears of molten lava to shoot up, heading straight for Haku. The moment the two jutsu collided, an explosion rocked the arena, filling it with smoke and obstructing them both from the crowd. No way, Naruto has a bloodline? Ino asked, shocked at seeing the lava-release bloodline. Yeah, it's something Naruto discovered during training, Kara said with a smirk, while everyone else was waiting for the smoke to clear. Her and her siblings, all of whom could easily see through the smoke, watched as Naruto and Haku began another taijutsu battle. Apparently, when he added Haku, Mei, and Guren to his peerage, he gained their bloodlines. We're still not sure how, but we're not really complaining. Do you think that would happen if he made someone a brave saint? Kakashi asked as the smoke began to clear, allowing the crowd to see them trading blows once again. Yes, he got the Byakugan from Hanabi, Kara said casually, chuckling a little at the memory of when he showed Hayashi and the rest of the Hyuga clan. The clan elders were pissed, and they became even more so when Hayashi offered to train Naruto in the gentle fist style. Well, it looks like the match is over, Amuri said as the smoke cleared, revealing Naruto standing in a new stance, one that got wide eyes from many of the shinobi in the crowd. Naruto had his feet spread apart as he hunched over. His left arm was out facing Haku while his right was facing the crowd. One thing that everyone seemed to notice was that his eyes were now white with veins bulging around them, which were clear signs of an activated Byakugan. Sorry Haku, but I'm finishing tis now, Naruto panted. He knew Haku and the others had gotten stronger, but he never thought he would be forced to use more than one bloodline during any of his matches, though he'd be lying if he said he wasn't expecting to use at least one in a match. You can try, Naruto, but I'm not going down without a fight, Haku panted as she fell into a relaxed pose, her arms hanging at her side as giant claws of ice formed on her hands, steam spreading out around her from the low temperature her technique caused. For a few seconds both were still before without warning they charged each other, intent on winning the fight. The winner of the first match is Naruto Uzumaki, Genma said to the silent crowd after checking on a downed Haku, who was smirking up at Naruto, whose left arm was coated in a thin layer of ice. Well, it looks like I lost after all, Haku chuckled weakly as Naruto sat down next to her, the ice on his arms slowly chipping off. Yeah, but it was a close one. What was that last technique you used? Haku smiled at her king, knowing he was genuinely curious. Ice style, claws of the Ukiana. It covers my hands in ice claws, and coats whatever I touch in a thin layer of ice, your arm being a good example. Naruto blinked and glanced at his frozen arm, impressed. Being able to freeze everything you touch, that was a scary technique. Man, you're going to have to teach me that soon. They both chuckled a little as Asia ran over and began using her sacred gear to heal Haku. Once Haku was able to walk after about 5 minutes, Naruto and Asia helped her back to the competitor's box as Yuuto and Sasuke made their way down to the arena for their match. So how you think this match will go? Kurenai asked everyone as the entire crowd cheered, since the last Uchiha was about to fight. Yuuto, hands down. Everyone turned to see Naruto and Asia walking towards them, Naruto's arm having been thawed out. No way, Sasuke will win, both Sakura and Ino yelled with fire in their eyes, getting a large sweat drop from everyone in the general area. So, what makes you so sure Yuuto will win? Kakashi asked, ignoring the glares he was receiving from Sakura. It's simple, Yuuto has more experience than Mr. Sasuke, Asia said as she stared at the lone Uchiha, though something was nagging at her as she looked at him, though she couldn't place what it was. You can sense it too, can't you, Asia? The ex-nun nodded at Naruto's question, which confused everyone around them. Any clue what that might be? She shook her head though the feeling was familiar. It's light magic, Rias said with narrowed eyes, getting surprised looks from everyone. It feels just like a fallen, though the question is how he got it. With that everyone looked back at the two, the question Rias posed running through everyone's head. As Naruto and the group were talking, Yuuto was tensing up for a hard fight. Like Naruto and the others, she could sense the light magic seeping out of the Uchiha, more specifically the place she knew his curse mark was located. Are both contestants ready? Yuuto nodded and Sasuke smirked, not his normal smug smirk, but one of confidence. Then let the second match begin, Genma yelled as he backed up to give them space. The second Genma stared the match. Yuuto charged at Sasuke, and blocking his initial strike, began a furious dance of taijutsu. You're pretty good, Uchiha, Sasuke smirked at the compliment as he put some distance between them. Though there's something different about you, you seem to have lost the stick up your ass since the end of the second exam. I take it something interesting happened during that time. You could say that. Sasuke charged at her, kunai in hand which she blocked with her own. Sparks flew as the two clashed, each trying to gain ground over the other. I met someone over the month. He saw promise in me and gave the power I thought I had wanted, though it was more of a wake-up call. Leaping away, Sasuke raised his right arm. As he did, what looked like a bow made of light appeared in his hand, surprising everyone, before he pulled back with his left hand and fired a light arrow, which missed Yuuto by a few feet. You're not very good with that, are you? She stated as the bow vanished and Sasuke began breathing hard. She had not expected him to be able to use the light magic she felt, though by his haggard appearance after firing just one arrow, she knew he didn't have much control over his new power. Still, the question remains, how did he get these powers, and from whom? Deciding not to give him any time to use his light arrow again, knowing how dangerous it was to her, Yuuto channeled lightning chakra all over her body, having learned her uncle's lightning armor over the month, and with the enhanced speed and power the lightning chakra gave her, slammed Sasuke into the ground, knocking him out. The winner of the second match, Yuuto Ni of Kumo, Yuuto let out a teared sigh, before falling to her knees as her body seized up, having not yet mastered the lightning armor came with the drawback of her body becoming paralyzed for a short amount of time upon the release of the jutsu. See, told you she'd win, Naruto smirked as Asia flew down and helped Yuuto out of the arena, while some medics carried an unconscious Sasuke of the field. Though if what he said is true, we might have a new enemy on our hands. Naruto glanced around the arena, wondering if the person that gave Sasuke the light powers was sitting in the stands. Well, that was unexpected, Selzen said, glancing over at Michael and Azazel, both of whom seemed stunned by the Uchiha using light magic. So, any clue where he might have gotten his new power from? Not one, though I can say this, the kid's got talent. Azazel glanced over at the hole in the stadium wall that the light arrow made. It showed that he had the power and skills needed to use light magic, but he lacked the proper training. With the right teacher the kid could probably be a strong fighter. I don't know, however, if it's agreeable, I would like to take the boy and teach him to harness his light properly, Michael said, glancing at Tsunade, who was staring at the hole in the wall as well. I have no problem with it. Tsunade leaned back in her chair, releasing a teared sigh. She knew she would hear about this from those damned elders later. It might actually do him some good, having someone to teach him to use his magic properly, instead of him trying to figure it out on his own and killing himself. Off to the side, Orochimaru was silently seething. Once again his plans had been ruined. Ever since he had returned to Konoha all of his plans had gone awry. First Kin and Taiuya had been captured by the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, which cost him a sacrifice, and the other members of his elite guard, the Sound Four. And now someone had somehow altered or even gotten rid of the cursed seal he had placed on the Uchiha. Why is this happening? It doesn't make any sense. My plans should have been foolproof. Why are they falling apart like this? His snake-like eyes roamed the stadium, trying to find an answer before they landed on Naruto. Of course, it must have something to do with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. All my reports on the village began to change when he awakened his strange powers. Now having an idea of where his problems all originated from, Orochimaru leaned back in his chair, new ideas and plans flowing through his head, all centered around either capturing or killing the young Jinchuriki. So, Naruto, who do you think will win the next match? Kakashi asked as the next two contestants, Akino and Kin, appeared on the field facing each other. Honestly, while I don't doubt Kin has gotten better, my money's on Akino. She does have more experience than Kin, and has had her powers her entire life. Naruto smirked as Genma started the third match of the exam. Alright Kin, let's put on a good show for everyone. Kin shuddered a little at the predatory smirk on Akino's face as a magic circle appeared under her, transforming her cloths into her Miko outfit. Don't worry, I plan to. A magic circle appeared under Kin, changing her appearance. She was now wearing a black, skin-tight, short-sleeve leotard with pauldrons, matching fingerless gloves that extend to her biceps, thigh-high boots with a glowing red H on her left shoulder. Damn, I had no idea that Kin had a battle outfit like Akino. Naruto chuckled as he eyes his 5 of hearts. She really did have an amazing figure. Without any warning, both girls spread their wings. Akino's had one black devil wing on her left side and a black fallen angel wing on her right, while Kin had two pure white wings, and flew at each other, engaging in a mid-air taijutsu fight. Well, it seems Akino's gotten better at her taijutsu during the month. Everyone turned to see Yuuto walking up to them with Asia beside her. Yeah, I guess Anko decided that was her biggest weakness, Naruto chuckled, giving both Yuuto and Asia a small kiss, making the ex-nun blush. She seems to be holding her own against Kin. Asia smiled as Naruto put an arm around her shoulder. Yeah, but that's because taijutsu's not really Kin's strong suit. Everyone turned to see Taiya approaching with Gabriel, Irina, Rainer, Shizen and Hanabi. Though we did work on it during the month, she focused more on learning to use her light magic. It seems you've gotten pretty good in a fight, Kin smirked as she once again clashed with the queen of her king's fiancé. But that doesn't mean you'll win. Swinging her arm in an arc, Kin sent several senbon made of light at a surprised Akino. Well, that was interesting, but not enough. Akino smirked as she skillfully dodged the senbon, before a magic circle appeared in front on her. Now, please scream for me, I want to hear it. She fired a blast of lighting, striking a surprised Kin, causing her to scream as electricity coursed through her body. Oh, I just love that sound, it really turns me on. Akino smirked and looked towards Naruto as a suffocating pressure flooded the arena, as Naruto's killing intent was aimed at every male in the arena who was eyeing her as she had her fun. Though I guess it will have to wait for later. Blowing a kiss at Naruto, Akino landed on the ground next to an unconscious Kin, whom she picked up and carried off the field as Genma declared her the winner.